And you close him. Thank you. Yeah. It may not be raining there, but I will see if it's raining there.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, the time is 6:34 p.m. and we are going to go ahead and call to order the City of Inkster Planning Commission meeting. At this time, I don't see Ms. Daniels just yet, so we do have a quorum just as far as roll call. Did you want to do it or do you want me to do it?
You can do it.
Okay. All right. We're going to go from left to right. Commissioner Hayes Bradford.
Present.
Chairman Chisholm is present. Commissioner Hall.
Present.
Commissioner Williams.
Present.
Commissioner Davis.
Present.
That is 5 present. Mayor Wimberly. That's 1. Commissioner Willis. He's excused, okay. So Commissioner Daniels. Were you able to reach her today though?
She said that she has an email and said understood when I told her this.
I saw that, okay. Well, I'll mark her down as absent right now. And that's everybody. So we have 5 present, we do have a quorum. We have 1 excused absence and 2 absences right now, and of course 1 vacancy still. Alrighty, we're going down to adoption of the agenda. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Alrighty, are there any additions or corrections to the agenda? If there are none, the floor is open for a motion to adopt the agenda as is.
Motion to adopt the agenda as is. I support.
It's been properly moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We're down to item number 3, adoption of the minutes. Adoption of June 12th, 2023 meeting minutes. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes?
Yes. Yes.
Alrighty, are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, the floor is open for a motion to adopt the minutes from June 12th, 2023.
Motion.
Is there support? It's been properly moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We're down to item number 4, first hearing of the public. This is for items not scheduled for a public hearing but on the agenda. So we have 4 different items on our agenda this evening. One is a tattoo establishment at 161 Middle Belt, a special land use. There's a special land use for a child care facility at 337 Inkster Road. There's a mixed-use business and residential special land use at 715 Inkster Road. And there are amendments to the city zoning ordinance being chapter 155, article 29, that is abbreviated STA. If there are any members here from the public who wish to speak to any of those 4 items that I just listed, please approach all of them are a public hearing. Never mind them. We're moving along to public hearing. We have 4 items under the public hearing. The floor is open. I'm sorry, we're going to open them one by one and close them one by one.
Sure. Sure.
Can you list what that last TA is?
Yes,
This number means village up out here.
I'm sorry. It's actually on the public hearing. It's item D, so we'll be discussing it in full.
Okay, all right.
And no problem. And then, of course, everyone in the public hearings, everyone from the general public will have an opportunity to speak to any one of these items that we're discussing. Item 5A, case number 23-06, special land use, tattoo establishment at 161 Middle Belt Road. The floor is open for a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion to public hearing.
Support.
It's been properly moved and supported. Any unreadiness? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Public hearing is now open. Ms. Dixon, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman Chisholm. We have reviewed the application for special land use consideration. Legit Ink Studios is proposed to use 1,500 square shop at 161 Middle Belt, which is on the west side of Middle Belt, actually, east side, I apologize.
Right.
Middle Belt, south of Cherry Hill. They've also completed their commercial reoccupancy. This building has been recently built and reconstructed, so we did not feel a site plan was necessary at this time. You will find that the special land use review is in your packet, and we've found that it's consistent with the intent of the zoning ordinance, as this is a special land use in the B2 district. We have not gotten any comments from the city engineer, fire department, or police that indicate that this would be excessive on cost of public services. We do not believe this to be a reduction of economic viability, and we don't expect there to be any smoke, fume, glare, noise, vibration, or odor pollution. There are additional use standards that these cannot be a private room, which the applicant has agreed to. I know the applicant is here this evening as well, and at this point, the planning department does recommend approval of the special land use.
Thank you. You said the applicant is here tonight? Okay, the applicant for 161 Middle Belt, please approach the podium at this time. Good evening. And just state your name for the record for me, please.
Arthur Wood. Mr. Andrew Wood.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Before we turn it over to the commission and the public, is there anything you would like for us to know or any questions or concerns at this time?
At this time, no.
Okay.
We really look forward to adding some new energy to Inkster.
All right.
Good positive energy.
Both you guys tattooed
Yes.
artists? Okay. How long you been doing it?
Kind of about 23 years in. So
Myself, 17.
Okay. All right, well, this is a public hearing. What we'll do first is turn it over to the general public for those who have any questions about the tattoo establishment at 161 Middlebelt Road. Please approach the podium and state your name for the record. After the general public addresses this commission and or the applicant, we'll turn it over to the commission. You guys can stay close by, just in case you got to answer any
My name is
questions.
Sandra Watley, and I am a Inkster resident. And I was concerned, how long has this building you're utilizing been vacant? You said it was reconstructed, or there were some things done to it, but a site plan review is not necessary?
I do not have the date of the last reoccupancy to tell you how long it's been vacant, but there are, to my understanding, other tenants in.
But it had some reconstruction done inside? Or this location has had? Because what I'm really concerned about is the fact that how do you determine whether or not it's supposed to? Especially since most things, if they've been vacant for at least 2 years or have had structural changes, a site plan review would be necessary simply to keep us in line with things of that nature in case we had to go in there and know the different rooms or things of that nature. So I just want to know what criteria you're using, because this is going to be coming up with another one of my concerns this evening.
So that is that is the standard that we require. I do not have the site plan file in front of me, but I can provide that information to you at a later date.
Well, is this something that this commission will be voting on tonight, whether to approve and forward to council?
Yes,
Because
especially.
it would be needed, you know,
Yes.
that information prior to me, you know, or anyone assessing it, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, special land use to be voted on tonight for recommendation to the city council, whether it's approved or denied.
Yeah, but we won't have that other information tonight.
Chairman Chisholm,
Go right
if I
ahead.
may as well. So the building department has also gone through and issued a certificate of occupancy for the entire building. So it is up to the building code, and I can provide that information to you.
That, unfortunately, and I appreciate you attempting to ameliorate this, but that's not the same thing as a site plan review. And a lot of that has been going on too, and that's one of my major concerns, is that occupancy permits are being issued without the format. And all I'm saying is this leaves us open to liabilities as far as the city is concerned, especially if one thing is done for one person, then not for the next, or if there's no standardized usage. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the general public? Hearing none, we're going to turn it over to the commission. Commissioners, do you have any questions, comments, or concerns at this time for the planning department and or the applicant?
Well, I have a question as far as the site plan. I understand you're saying there's a site plan review, and I don't know how intricate those things are far and beyond the building department. Is there something that you think is going to be a lot more extensive than that?
I'm just saying that. No, I'm just saying is that any building in this city, there should be a plan somewhere that tells us this is a room here, this is something here, this is something here. And if you don't have that, I'm saying when the fire department goes into buildings and there's some concern, they have to look at the plan to see where they're going or how they're going. And I'm saying if that doesn't exist, then, you know, and
Did
if
I
it's
hear
not
that
a
it did not
standard,
exist, or that you wanted it revised?
It, if I may,
Go ahead.
please.
it exists, so in the reoccupancy process, there is a minimum requirement for a plot plan that must be submitted when the applicant submits the administrative reoccupancy process. In the case of 161 Inkster, they provided the actual site plans from when the building was constructed. I believe the date is 2020, but it's a little blurry on my screen, and I don't have access to the city's records at the current moment, which is why I'm having trouble providing you the exact date of when the certificate of occupancy was issued. But we do in fact have site plans on file that this applicant has provided from the owner of the building, because they're leasing this suite, which details the rooms in the building, it details the outside of the building, it has all of that detail. I don't have the exact date in front of me because I can't make it out on my site plans, but I'm happy to print that out for you as well.
So the original site plan has not been altered?
This is the site plan from when there was some construction done to the
Or I think I misstated that. The current structure of the building has not been altered from the original site plan.
Correct, and then if there are any things that are altered in the process, they go through a as-built drawing that they submit to the building department before they receive their certificate of occupancy that would reflect any changes that were made in the process of building.
All right, thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Commissioners, any further questions or comments? Or, I'm sorry, anything else from any other commissioners?
So just to confirm, any additional changes, they have to come back before you, before they do anything?
Right, we're not discussing they're not making any changes to the building.
But I'm just saying with regard to the conversation.
Yes, that's correct.
And this is the west side, not the east side.
And
It is the east
apologize.
side.
I mean, it's the east side, not the west side.
That was
Okay.
incorrect in the review letter.
Okay. There's one other thing I want to say.
Anything further?
I think I read in the report, the packet, that a tattoo establishment, thank you, had come before the council at some point, and 4 people voted and 2 did not. Is there a reason why they?
I'm not aware of that. That wasn't included in the review letter. I'm not sure if that.
It's in the packet. I read it. It said something about 4 people had voted on it.
For this site?
Yeah. Is this the tattoo?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe that was a building sale. That we didn't vote on anything regarding this establishment.
Not this establishment. This tattoo period. sometime, I guess some time ago,
A tattoo
that it
ordinance?
that it was talked about, and 4 people voted for it. I don't know if maybe,
You don't know the year?
since Madam Wiley has been on the council for some time, maybe you know what I'm talking about? No?
The only thing I can think of is maybe it was added in the ordinances or there was a text amendment because the city didn't speak to tattoo parlors at the time. But I don't recall what year that
Because
was.
it was in the part where it talked about the harmony of
The harmonious.
the harmonious, and it talked about, and I distinctly remember 4,
I can read you the section.
okay,
So the 2017 Master Plan Future Land Use Map designates this area as corridor convenience retail, which intends for the development of daily services and goods to be readily available for the community. Permitted uses include retail and office uses on the first floor, and office and residential on the second floor and above. Design guidelines and strict site plan review should be applied. Proposed uses would include modest-sized food stores, hardware, drugstores, dry cleaners, banks, professional offices, and similar uses. The land use category is primarily located on Layout, Inkster Road, and East Bailey Road. The appendix of the master plan includes public input on encouraged and discouraged land uses. Tattoo parlors were the most discouraged use in B2. With 4 votes, this is where you're getting.
there you go,
That's
there you go, so,
Master planning process.
Mhm.
So that was not a city council vote, that was part of a public.
I knew I had saw it
activity
somewhere.
in
Okay.
2017.
and so is there a reason why, I mean, can you think of why they would not?
I can't speak to who showed up at the public engagement event in
Okay.
2017 or what their reasoning was, other than there's a certain idea around tattoo shops or something of that nature. There was no further detail. This was the level of detail we could provide.
Okay.
On the public engagement portion of the master plan, again, from 2017.
Okay, I was just curious, what that would have been that maybe I didn't recognize or didn't think of. Okay,
Anything additional?
no.
Oh, hearing none. Commissioners, anything further?
Yep.
Commissioner Hall.
What other businesses are in that area?
Vape, something.
Yeah, there's LIV Live or Live Vape Shop, and then I believe there's some sort of, I don't know if it's a hair studio or something else in
The
that.
tire shop or,
Next to the tire shop.
Trying to pull it up on the map, but it won't work.
And it's an auto clinic or something? An auto
Yes.
clinic?
So what is that exactly between? What
It's Middle Village.
Cherry Hill
Cherry
and,
Hill.
Hold on one second, were you finished?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, so you're asking what's in between that?
Yeah, what's the exact location?
It's just south of Cherry Hill, so.
Okay,
You
so-
can you can kind of drive through that plaza on Cherry Hill at the corner of Middle Belt and
Yeah.
come back down past the tire shop and get to this
Okay.
little plaza. And then Beech Nut Street, that residential
Okay,
street is right
okay.
to the south.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Are you all set?
thank you.
Commissioner Davis, anything? No. Commissioner Hayes
Hayes
Bradford.
This Mr. Riddle, was it? This is not you guys' first rodeo, is it? Okay, you have another shop somewhere else?
My last shop I closed due to COVID. It was in Oak Park. Dealt with local and county health department
Okay.
and the state and the city as well.
Now, how does traffic run with your businesses? Is it really,
Well, I mean, unless we're doing a special, we kind of control our flow. For the most part, we do appointment only. Once we engage and get other artists in there, we can accept walk-ins. But it's not really too extensive at all. Unless, like I said, like the example of a special would be the 313 day where we offer out $13 tattoos in increments of an inch. So every inch it goes up to 13. Friday the 13th we do the same thing. If there's something going on with the city, we try to coordinate and do specials or events surrounding what's going on in the city. I mean, it's, like I said, traffic wise, nothing too extensive. We can really control our own flow and we can, kind of mend it to accommodate whatever's going on with the
For a 313 day, what kind of traffic does that look like?
Depending on how well it's promoted, it would be extensive, but it would be controlled. It wouldn't be to the point where if we have a line going on the door, we wouldn't be blocking things, entrance ways and exit ways. It wouldn't be out of control in the sense of having a line down the street all the way, like it's fairly easy to control.
How?
As far as appointments or?
No, as far as the traffic, if you're doing a 313 day, it's open to anybody, how does one control that type of
As far
traffic?
as the traffic goes, especially like that, usually we have sign-in sheets, therefore they would come in, they would sign into the sheet, they go out and get something to eat from a local restaurant or anything like that to buy their time, till they actually call, get a telephone, or to come in for the appointment.
So it's not gonna be cars on cars stacked all over every place? Okay.
If I may add to that.
Go right ahead.
Is also limited by the amount of tattoo artists at the location, and most of the work that they do is by appointment. So you're not going to have, I know that 5 canvases right there, and there's some parking issues in that plaza, but we don't expect there to be typically excessive parking. I understand there might be special events, but it might be 1 to 2 people in the studio that understand.
Okay. Very good.
For the record, in the event I said the wrong street name, because I had it in my mind over here, 161 Inkster Road. I should have said 161 Middlebelt if I didn't, but just to clear that up, Commissioner Hall had a question, and then Commissioner Williams.
I know you said something about no rooms or something.
So can't have, read specifically the language. They must have an entrance or exitway providing a direct passageway, to like an outdoor entrance. So it can't pass through another business or a private entity. So the city really wants to make sure that these aren't back rooms of people's private homes, things of that nature. The applicants have been very forthcoming in providing all of the documentation needed, and obviously this is a very public facing business location. In addition, there, to be public places, and they should have their doors unlocked at all times, as well.
All set, Commissioner Hall.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Williams.
So for the square footage of the unit that they're proposing to occupy, what is the maximum number of artists that can be working at the same time? Yeah.
So, for health department and state guidelines, if it was an open floor plan, it would need to be at least 1 seat, 2 every 3 artists. Each artist can work within a 4x4 workspace. For, as far as how many artists would be in there, with the layout of what it is that's existing, it's also what we are trying to. Now, there are 4 rooms. Within each of those rooms, at max, we're looking to only have 2 artists. So total would be 8 artists in total, but that's even pushing it because we're trying to keep it to 6 or 7. Now, if you would like to know, like the guidelines from the health department or anything like that, I can give you those as well.
Okay. My question is, just with the parking, will the parking, the current parking structure, will that handle if there was, let's say, 6 or 7 artists on staff with, I'm assuming, so we'll just say 2 clients per artist. So that would be 7 to 8.
Yes, so I can give you one moment, I can tell you exactly how many parking spaces there are. But there is parking towards the church as well, but, I think we could potentially find some staff parking behind the, party store there as well.
Okay, and you were getting ready to state something regarding,
The state.
yeah, the state.
As
So
far
if
as
you
the
go
health
back-
department,
yeah,
there are different criteria to different types of shops. Because our shop or the space that we're looking to use as a shop has individual rooms, there can only be 3 artists to a room, well, 3 artists to workstation. A workstation is included with a sink. That's what they consider a workstation. So it's 3 artists to an area where there's a sink available. There's a sink in the rooms. As far as it being an open floor plan, just as long as you have, say we're using this space right here and there's 2 sinks, we're allowed to have up to 6 artists there.
okay, so in your current position right now, how many sinks are you planning to put in at this time?
There's already sinks in there.
How many sinks are
There's
pre-existing?
4, one for each room, so there's 4 rooms altogether.
Okay, all right.
Anything additional,
That's it.
Commissioner?
That's it.
That's it. Commissioners, anything before we close the public hearing? All right, hearing none from the commissioners, Ms. Dixon or Mr. Dowdell, anything additional from planning? Nope. All right, anything additional from the applicant?
One thing that I can think of that sticks out, kind of like a sore thumb, because we were just talking about parking, there's an overflow from the store that's behind there, as well as maybe the dispensary. There's been days in there that we went in there to clean up, and we can't even open up the back door because there's people blocking the doors nonstop. I know on the side where there's a store, they have like loading spots as far as like marked off on the ground. There's nothing behind our building, and even when we open the door, they still come and park in front of it. So it's kind of like
You said this is overflow from the dispensary?
from the store, because that's where
From the store and the dispensary?
Yeah.
Okay. Go right ahead.
The city is aware of this issue and has been working with the dispensary on Cherry Hill to try and alleviate some of this parking issue. I know code enforcement has been out there many times. There's supposed to be an agreement with the church that they direct their overflow parking to that area. That was part of the condition when that business was approved. And I am aware, and I know code enforcement is aware that that's not always been occurring. So I am aware that parking is an issue in that Cherry Hill Plaza.
As far as signage goes for, we enter, when we frequent other establishments that says, City of Inkster parking only, whatever it might be, vehicles will be towed at owner's expense. Is that something that the applicant could put up themselves?
That would
Or-
be, they would need to work with their landlord, and I know that
Okay.
building lines also get a little bit interesting, because I think behind your building is actually technically the other property owner's, I guess, driveway space, if you will. And so they would also need to participate in kind of posting those we will
Okay.
tow signs. Again, I know that this is a problem, and it's something that code enforcement's been working through with us as well.
Got you, thank you. Would that be something that you'd be able to take up with your landlord?
Yes, we've already talked to him about it. He just wanted us to come down to the city and make sure whichever way we go about it is the correct way.
Okay, great. Anything additional? Okay. Alrighty, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
All right, the floor is open for a motion to close the public hearing for item A.
So moved. Support.
It's been properly moved and supported. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Public hearing is now closed for item A, and again, that will come back up under new business for us to vote on. We're down to item 5B. Case number 2307, special land use, child care facility at 337 Inkster Road. The floor is open for a motion to open the public hearing for item B.
So moved.
Support.
It's been it's been properly moved and supported. Any unreadiness? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The public hearing is now open. Ms. Dixon.
Thank you, Chairman Chisholm. This application is for special land use consideration for a child care. I will note the applicant has indicated that this will be for 11 to 15 children. The applicant, Bright Kryanicus, is represented by Ms. Sullivan, and they're proposing to use 1,500 square feet of this 8,000 square foot building. And this is part of the plaza directly south on Inkster Road of Cherry Hill. So there's the 315 Plaza, and then there's the 337 Plaza. This site is Zone B2, which is where daycare facilities are considered special land uses. In terms of harmony with the master plan, we did find that the childcare use is a daily service-related use that most residents would utilize, and it is consistent with the corridor convenience retail that the master plan has indicated. There's no indication that this would be inconsistent with the existing character of the area or the plaza. It would most likely be an improvement to the community, as it would bring a needed service. We believe there's adequate public services and facilities. We have not received any additional comments from the city engineer, police, or fire. It can be reasonably assumed that the child care facility will not have an influx of odor, smoke, or fumes. There may be an increase of noise activity at the site, but given that it is in a commercial area and there's a child care facility across the street, we do not believe this will be detrimental to any person, property, or general welfare. We don't believe it will erode or reduce economic viability of other existing land uses. We know that child care facilities are a needed service. And then it is consistent with the intent of the zoning ordinance, as this is special land use in the district. We know there were some concerns about the fact that there was potentially a marijuana dispensary just to the north. We've consulted with Laura as well as other communities that have kind of confronted this problem. There's no requirement for the daycare to position itself outside of the 500-foot radius from the dispensary. The dispensary is existing, so therefore it's really only the dispensary that, if it were coming in, would be required to position itself outside of the 500 feet. In terms of the drug-free zone, when we talked with Laura about this, it's a designation that allows for prosecution, so it's not something that immediately disallows a daycare facility from going into this area. So at this time, we don't believe that this is of any concern. There are additional use standards for child care facilities. One additional use standard being that it must meet the state requirements. And one of the state requirements is that there is a 1,200 square foot outdoor play area. There's been some discussion with the applicant about putting an outdoor play area at the south end of the parking lot. I have some concerns from a planning perspective in terms of reducing the parking, because that plaza has quite a few tenants and not very much parking at this time. And also, just in terms of circulation safety, if we put a play area where people are, used to turning and things of that nature, that we would need to really ensure that that play area is not going to be driven into, because that would be, really not a safe situation for the children there. So those are the two biggest concerns at this time, and that's why we did kind of write a recommendation for denial at this point without having a variance for the parking reduction, which we would have to explore with the Zoning Board of Appeals, and then again the safety concerns with the circulation at that site. So those are kind of the big notes, and we're happy to answer any questions, and I know the applicant is here this evening as well.
Okay. We're gonna have the applicant approach first.
No, before she approach, I think you need to, because we all know what Laura means, but the general public doesn't. Please, can you define the acronym?
It's the Licensing Agency of Regulatory Affairs, and they're the ones in charge of licensing the daycare facilities, because all daycare facilities must be licensed through the state.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the applicant is here for 337 Inkster Road, or a representative on that behalf. Please approach and state your name for the record.
Hello, my name is Joanna Sullivan, and
Good evening.
hi, how are you doing?
Very good.
So a couple things I wanted to address. first of all, I am already licensed. I have a licensed facility in the state in Dearborn, Michigan. So I have a licensing consultant working with me. I want to address the playground issue. Before I even spoke to the building department, when I decided to lease this property, I had already planned to double secure a parking lot. Playground, meaning that it would be some type of brick foundation and then double fenced. I was also, my licensing consultant told me that I could also use the facility as a infant daycare center, meaning that they wouldn't have to have a playground if I was just going to keep certain ages. So that's another option. However, I would like to have it from the ages of 6 weeks to maybe 14 years old. So I don't want to, with this project, I would not like to exclude anyone or just limit it to infants and newborns. Infants and toddlers. But as far as the parking structure goes, I did give you guys a brief flyer just to show you that the parking lot, closing off a small portion of the parking lot it will not interfere with what's going on inside of this plaza already. For one, I rent out 2 buildings in the plaza. I rent out 337 Inkster Road, and I rent out 355 Inkster Road. And I've been there since March. There's no one parking over there on that other end. Actually, it's always full of trash and everything. So that whole area on the side of 337 where I'm looking to build out a playground, no one is parking there. That is not utilized, so no one is turning in over there. The parking space have been, there's only one way in and one way out at that plaza now. So that should not propose a threat as far as the children being safe. Of course, if me opening up a daycare center, my first priority is the children being safe, having a safe environment. That's the reason for me wanting to even do this. So what I would do is, again, build out a small playground area, double fenced, maybe a metal fence, and then a boxed-in wooden fence. It would also be signs posted, no vaping, no smoking, children playing in the area. And I would also have, again, the brick, I don't know the proper terminology to use, but you know how you have the brick thing that'll stop the car from going over? I would place that as well. This is something that I'm funding. It is definitely going to bring a lot of different things to the city of Inkster. A lot of help, I'll say that.
You're talking about those parking concrete blocks?
Yes, sir, that's exactly what it's called, yes, sir. But the main thing I want to reiterate is that I have 337, I've had this space since March, and no one is parking over there. No, there's no traffic. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Yes, Commissioner Hall.
Which side is it on? This side or in the middle?
It's on the end.
This end right here?
Yes, sir. One more thing, if I can throw this out real quickly. So the state of Michigan, Laura, as those are the ones who give us the licensing and everything, and they're in agreement. I don't have, they're not opposing, or I wouldn't have even went this far if I was recommended not to do so.
You all set right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Commissioner Williams.
Okay, so that was something that I kind of we as the planning commission needs to kind of hear a little bit more about from the department's perspective. So have you presented to Laura your current layout of how you plan to address the situation regarding the playground situation?
Yes, ma'am, I have. For me to even, so for one, you have to submit an application to Laura. You have to give them the address, and you have to give them I did turn that into you all, right? The layout of the building?
Floor plan.
Okay, the floor plan, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So they are aware. They give me recommendations, and one of the recommendations was if the city of Inkster does not want me to fence out a small portion of the parking lot for a playground area, that I could drive them to a park to play, because they have to have, it's required that they have play area. outside time is what it's considered, like 45 minutes a day of outside time.
Okay.
So if that's not an option, the other option was that she recommended that I just open up a infant center, meaning that you would keep children like from babies to a certain age, toddler. I don't want to quote exactly what age because I don't want to be wrong, but that was another option. However, my goal is not just for newborns or infants. I would like to open this up. This is the start for me, and I'm gonna throw out there that I was raised in Inkster, and I would rather give back to my city, give back to my people, the different things that we are offering, which we have a wonderful program, and so I've already invested a lot of money. I've been in this building since March. I went in with the goal of turning this into a child care center, a learning center is what I would call it, or a learning environment. So.
Commissioner Williams, you have more?
Yes, so with the possibility of, and now in regards to the space, I'm assuming it's immediately to the north of your entrance, how would the children come out into this playground that you're proposing?
So when you walk out the front door,
Mm-hmm.
you would go to the right.
Mm-hmm.
I have also even gave the option of building one on the other end where the hair salon is at, because I rent out both spaces, both. So I have the 355. I have a 355 Inkster Road and a 337. However, I would think that it would be more safe for the child to enter out of the 337 door and then go to the right. It's a sidewalk there on both. So it's a sidewalk that in a U shape all the way around the entire building. So they would enter out of the door to the right and into a gate of the playground.
Okay, so for the commissioners and for the general public, she has access to both ends of the building. 355 is the last suite to the south of the building, and the suite that she's proposing, 337, is the last suite to the north of the building. So she's on the edge. She's on the ends on both sides of the facility. Okay, and will the current landlord allow you to put this 1,200 square foot requirement if it's required?
Yes, ma'am. What he said to me was, it's over 96 parking spots. It's more than enough space for that. And as I stated in the beginning, since I've had the building since March, no one is parking over on 337. Actually, it was an actual food truck just sitting over there, and I had him move to the other end. So that space have been vacant. It's usually full of trash. We kind of keep it clean. Lately, he's been keeping someone to keep it clean, but I think this will beautify the city of Inkster, because now you will have a nice decorated fence there where people can't just go dump their trash or, the other different things that we have been experiencing with that parking lot just being empty. No one in the suite from 337 to 355 is parking in that area. It's totally blank, just there.
Commissioner Williams, anything additional before we?
That's it for now.
Okay. We'll go to Commissioner Daniels. Did you have something?
Yeah.
Go right ahead, and then we'll go to Ms. Dixon.
So I do understand what you're saying. There's very little parking there because I live right on Somerset Street there, so I do see that. But my concern when you talk about a daycare, my number one concern was the marijuana facility.
Yes, ma'am.
Even though I know that it stated that a marijuana facility cannot be 500 feet from door to door, but I can't understand why a daycare would want to put their facility in that space where it's that close to a marijuana facility.
Okay. Would you like me to answer?
Go ahead.
Okay. So for one, it's a marijuana a dispensary, a retail. So no one is outside smoking that's not allowed. You're not allowed to smoke. You're allowed to purchase and then leave. So that's just, that dispensary is no different, in my opinion, than going to CVS and purchasing something and leaving. As far as the daycare facility, I will have no vaping, no smoking signs all over the place, which they're not allowed to do that anyways. The state of Michigan only requires that you be 300 square feet, which when we did our count, it was 302 square feet. So that puts us in the guidelines. It keeps us in compliance with what Laura, the state of Michigan, is requiring. I have not smelled any marijuana or anything, so I don't believe that would I don't believe that would affect the children while they're playing outside. Again, children are only required to be like 45 minutes to an hour outside play, so it's not something that would occur all day long. They do need to exercise and get fresh air, but we won't be outside all day and all night. Another positive thing I would say is that it is blocked off, so the dispensary traffic will not interfere with our.
I see what you're saying.
Okay.
It's still closed though.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
The other thing is the space that you're saying, making it a playground area. The foundation is going to be concrete.
Well, it's already concrete.
Right.
But Laura requires that we have a padding,
Okay.
some type, and those are things that I will be paying to have
Okay.
done.
Because I know if my child was there, I wouldn't want them to be on the concrete because.
Oh yeah, no, ma'am. No, we're not. That's not allowed. They don't even really want you to have grass. They want it to be like a special padding or whatever for protective padding. I don't know the exact terminology, but what I will tell you is that I will be in compliance with Laura. I will not. You cannot even obtain a license until you pass compliance. So that part you wouldn't have to worry about.
And you feel good with it being on Inkster Road, the main road?
You know what, I do, because it'll make it easier for parents to get there. It's a high traffic area for other people to be able to see the center. You have people that work at the hair salon that needs childcare, people that work at the grocery store that needs childcare. So I believe that we need a lot more. A lot of people don't have transportation. So to have something close that is safe, let me throw out there, we will have cameras, in there too. I do believe it is needed.
I love the idea, because
thank
we definitely need more
of them. Yes,
we
ma'am.
need more daycare centers in the city of Inkster, but the area was, kind of touchy for me. Also, did you try to search out other places, or you just kind of, because you say you had 2 places there, is that why you decided to do it there, or did you try to find?
So I think that I was blindsided to the fact of the dispensary, because originally I was requesting to have a space next door. Like I said, I've had the spot for a minute, and then it kind of just happened, I'm gonna be honest. And once I got the building, I saw a vision for it, the way everything is closed off. I have a idea for this computer area, then it's when you walk in, the vision, and I just couldn't let it go.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And I just have one more. This is just for
Yes,
my own confirmation. And I think that Commissioner Williams cleared it up for me, because I still couldn't understand how they was coming out of this building. And I'm looking at this building on the north side,
Okay.
and you said when they come out, they're going to turn left. So you're saying they coming out of another building that you
No,
already...
ma'am. So they'll come out of the front door, which I'm gonna turn my back. So I'm coming out of the front door.
Right.
I will turn to the right. And you will literally turn to the right. And it's literally on the right side of.
So this is yours, right?
No, ma'am, that was just.
So then, never mind.
Okay.
This is the only thing that I was using my...
Oh, thank you. No, ma'am, I just showed you that.
Because I'm thinking to myself, okay,
How that's gonna
something
happen.
is wrong here.
No, hold on, hold on. So,
Because I can see it now.
yeah,
If she's saying that
yeah,
it's
so,
on the...
yeah, so she turns right, that's just coming out right there.
Because and I know that's where where you said that dumping was at too, because I used to see it all the time.
Yeah,
Like,
and
that's on this side, not on that side, so.
I do believe that the playground being there will beautify the city. It'll take away from that dumping, because they won't have that. It'll be fenced off, blocked off. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
And just for the general public, Commissioner Williams was showing Commissioner Daniels a live map version of the property.
Okay.
That way y'all not confused. what we were showing.
I was confused, like.
Yeah, no, I was going to ask about that too.
Okay.
We're going to go to Commissioner Hayes Bradford and then Commissioner Davis.
Okay, so to be clear,
Yes, ma'am.
you're speaking of the playground area on the north side of the building.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And call me slow, but I thought that was an alley.
So, I was gonna ask and speak to that. Go
It's
ahead,
not.
Ms. Dixon.
So the plaza, there is a loading area to the east of, on the back side of the plaza, right? And that's what you, I guess, would classically call the alleyway. Ms. Sullivan's referring to the area immediately north of the building, so her suite is on the corner of the building, and there's parking area currently on that north side of that building, which is where she's referring to potentially.
So you could actually park facing south.
Correct.
Okay. I never knew that. I just thought that whole thing was a,
Yeah, because no one uses it. It's usually just like trashed or, just
Yeah.
just space there. So, yeah, that,
okay, I'm sorry, in my head I was thinking we were taking an alley, and I thought the
I got
engineers
you.
would have to
yeah, no,
do
ma'am.
something with that.
Gotcha.
Okay, you mentioned winter play.
Yes, ma'am.
If you could not do this, how, I mean, you didn't mention winter play. You said you would have to have so many hours a day
Yes,
for the
ma'am.
children to be able to play every day.
Yes,
Like
ma'am.
45 minutes is
45
school.
minutes, I believe to an hour. Yes, ma'am. They want them to have outside time.
See, okay, I used to have a daycare, so I'm familiar with it, and I know how that works. But my thing is, what's going to happen in the winter months if you don't get that space?
So, if I don't receive that, or if it's not approved for that space, I, again, can do what is it called, a variance? Is that what it's, to build out on the, would it be the south side of the, it's close to 355, that hair salon, area, which is, still a lot of space. However, we do park there, so, we do usually fill that spot up. Or, I could also, get permission to, so you have to just have permission slips or whatever to drive them to a park, which of course, that's not what I would want to do, but, yeah.
Okay, I get that, but then if you go to the south side, then you gotta truck past the marijuana stuff.
Well, no, I wouldn't have to truck past it, but I would have to walk extremely down, I would have to walk the children down the sidewalk. I would have to walk them to a longer distance to the play area, which, that area is closer to homes and, backyards, like, yeah, so I would rather do it in an area that's not being used. I just would. To me, it would make the plaza look better. It would take up that empty space because we're not using it for parking. Space.
So my last concern was, and it's going right, but it hasn't really changed from what we were talking about already, which was we were kind of recommending a denial because these things have not been met yet. Is there further dialogue about that to meet this requirement before we come to the point of saying it's approved?
Or did it deny?
So
Or
the
deny.
reason why they have not been met yet is because it's going to cost me thousands of dollars, maybe even $10,000 to have this done. And I don't want to put that type of money out for you to say no. What I will say is you can trust that the state of Michigan will not let me receive a license if these things are not done. But I can't even move forward with obtaining a license until I have an okay that, yes, I can do this with the city of Inkster. This is also a part of my reoccupancy certificate. Although I've paid for it, it has not been done yet because we're at a halt with, will you all approve me altering this area for this daycare?
And that's not the jurisdiction of this body.
So, regardless of where she was to put in the play area, you would need to get a variance from the zoning board of appeals because the site plan originally was approved with the amount of parking that has been provided. And just for a point of clarification, there's about 55 legal spots. I know people park parallel to Inkster Road. Those aren't actually, I guess, legally abiding spots. That would be something the zoning board of appeals would have to reduce the amount of parking. And then that would be where we would then need some sort of site plan to show where that outdoor play area is going to be. And then we would move on with site plan approval at that point. Those can kind of work in conjunction, but we can table this or condition it upon zoning board of approval and site plan approval. But right now, we're discussing just simply the use. We haven't gotten a ZBA application or a site plan application at this point.
Got it.
So, if you guys don't mind, you stated that there's only 55 parking spots, where the owner is stating that it's 96 or 92 parking spots. And I'm gonna just reiterate one more time, that parking space on the side of 337 is not being used. No one parks over there, like literally. It's literally, I think it was maybe a home or something for a homeless individual was using it for a while. Because I've been complaining a lot. If you notice, it's been clean lately because I stay on the landlord. But before I moved into that building, you guys know it was full of trash. It was horrible. So I don't see where, and it shouldn't be an issue with using a space that's being utilized for trash. It's blank, it's vacant, no one is using it. If they have not been using it for a parking structure now, why would it matter to build something there? It's like you're placing something wonderful in a spot that's, being used, not being utilized.
Got you. I don't want to, I know we're talking about a special land use, and we do have some further questions, and we're not necessarily discussing the site plan at this time.
Okay.
So let's give that a moment. Let's let
Okay.
Commissioner Davis go, then Commissioner Williams, and I have a few questions myself.
Okay.
And coming from the DPS side, the south side of that building where the barber was at, in that corner, is a sewer. We have to have access to that sewer. We got that
Okay.
old sewer run that alley. And we constantly, we don't constantly, but we cleaning out of that section there. North side of where you at, it's the same sewer line, runs all the way to Food Max. And we have to have access to that there. Because the water line for the building is in the front, but the other water line for 315 is in the back. So we would have to have access to these sewers back there. You don't think you could be able to block it off totally to front to fence?
No, sir. And that's why I gave you the picture of the other daycare center, because I can block off a small portion to where you can still get into the back, into the front. Anywhere it go right now, there's still only one entrance in of that plaza. It's been blocked off from, how before you could come in.
You come across, right?
Yeah,
I
so,
know that blocked off.
because in my mind, I'm thinking like, well, you can't block off completely because of the trash and that pickup. So that's not part of the vision or the goal. It's just to block off a small portion. I mean, not a small portion, but however, I can triangulate
I
or.
just wanted to bring up
Okay.
sewer and stuff back there.
Yes, sir.
Very good.
You all set, Commissioner Davis? All right, Commissioner Williams.
So as it stands right now, and it sounds like this playground is a significant issue. If the playground, so outside of the variance of the parking, what other entity has to review this playground scenario on the north side of the building?
It would require site plan approval because you would be altering the site in a significant way, so it would come before this body. And then Laura would also need to ensure that it meets their standards. I did reach out to their general line, but I have not been in contact with Ms. Sullivan's consulting specialist. I did ask for that contact information, but we have not made contact. So I can't speak to, I can only, allow her to illuminate what her consultant has said, but they would go through a licensing process for the outdoor play area on that end as well.
So it would have to be a special, okay, say that for me one more time.
So you would need the zoning board of appeals variance requirement for the parking reduction. You would need site plan approval for the site change, fencing, things of that nature. That would come before this body because it is significant enough that it would not be an administrative approval. And then Laura would also ensure that it meets their standards for an outdoor play area.
May I ask who comes first, Laura or?
The city of Inkster has to provide their verification that it meets all of their zoning requirements before they can sign off on it at the final.
So Laura could come back and say it does not approve.
That is possible.
Yes.
Were you all done, Commissioner Williams?
Yes, that's
Okay.
what I need to know.
All right, I just had a few that I was jotting down. One of them, one of the questions I had was regarding the alleyway that's back there. Commissioner Davis kind of touched on it, but I was just wanting to know, where's the dumpster located at the site?
In the back, in the far back right.
Far back right, so if you're facing the building, it's to the right near 355?
If I'm facing the building, it would be to the left, 355.
Upper,
I see it.
northeast side corner.
I
Which
got
none
you.
of that area would be blocked off because again, you have to, the fire department might have to, so
Right.
that area, that whole strip, I would not, be requesting to alter.
No, that's fine. I was just curious where it's okay, 'cause I know you talked about a lot of trash and stuff like that too.
Yes.
Ms. Dixon or Mr. Dowdell, when's the next ZBA meeting tentatively?
It's the first Thursday of every month.
First Thursday of every month,
We
okay.
would not meet the hearing requirements for that, so it would have to be the first Thursday in September.
Gotcha. Okay. And I think you already addressed that basically a vote on a special land use from the planning commission and the city council is a prerequisite for the state of Michigan, Laura's department, right? Alrighty, when did you start this process with the city of Inkster, Ms. Sullivan?
I believe April, the big,
April
so when we
2023?
first, yes, of this year, yes, sir. So
Okay.
when I first, no, we might have spoken March, and then I think she told me I had to have my application in by April, but then she had kind of redirected me, and then because I had already spent so much money into the project, I was like, well, let me just see if you guys would at least hear it out, and this was, yeah, so.
May I provide?
Go right ahead.
This application was submitted April 26th.
April 26th? Okay.
Originally, the reoccupancy had been applied for in March for a tax consulting service at this location.
Gotcha, thank you. That was a process date, and then I know we talked about the roadblocks and parking. Well, that's two things. So the roadblocks that you were speaking of installing, those will be brand new. I know there is a pathway in between the two parking lots, and recently someone dropped blocks down there. I wasn't sure whom did that or anything like that, but I did see they stopped the flow of traffic all the way through.
Right.
I just wanted to make a note of that because I know that wasn't something that was particularly on anyone's site plan since it was open. I didn't know if that was a change the other applicant did or who, but in the event that was removed by someone due to whatever unforeseen circumstances, is there a process that we go through if we decided that we wanted that separated where you can only enter the parking lot from one side and enter the other parking lot and couldn't cross straight through?
That would be a code compliance issue because it's either what their site plan had designated or not. I haven't looked. I pulled both of these files and looked at their site plan last week, but I can't remember if there was an access way in between the two sites off the top of my head. I know the building department, when 315, that plaza to the north, was getting their certificate of occupancy, did have some requirements in terms of the curbing and things of that nature. I'm assuming that it was during that process when that got blocked off.
Okay.
I can't speak to
And it's not
the
permanent when
requirement.
it's one of those temporary ones that a forklift could have put there, so.
I would have to go.
It was put there by hand.
Yeah, them was just
So you-
parking blocks.
You know exactly what I'm talking
Yeah, I
about?
know what you're talking about. That was just something done recently.
Yes,
Okay,
but
Just,
not by myself.
you know.
okay.
I believe it was from the plaza owner to the north. Again, I have to go back to reference exactly what the original requirements were.
Gotcha. And I'm just asking because it's not permanent. It's one of those temporary types of things. I didn't know if they pre-existed or someone removed them in the past, if they didn't exist at all and someone just happened to drop them there to block that way. But in the event that they move for whatever reason and now we have complaints from parents or something like that at the daycare saying, hey, y'all got all this traffic coming through here when I'm picking my kids up, y'all need to do something about it, and they come to the city, that's why I wanted to ask and inquire for that reason.
Right.
My additional thing is, you talked about parking. You quoted the landowner or something said 96 spots or something like that?
I
Or you
did, yes,
She
sir.
stated that. She
Um,
said it was 55.
Why is there a big difference? Who's counting what?
I'm not sure what the building department is counting, but I've been reassured by the owner several times that it's 90. I don't remember if he said 92 or 96. He said there's plenty of parking space. Like we expanded the parking space, just not because it was required, but just because that's what they did when they built out the plaza. So he said there's no problem with taking away space for the playground.
Okay. And you know what, I'm sorry, I'm talking about parking, that's something to be on site plans. I'll talk to y'all about that later.
Okay.
My additional or last question would be, I know when we talked about the 500 feet, was that in Lara's thing with daycares and cannabis establishments, or was that the City of Inkster's ordinance?
So the 500 feet requirement is the City of Inkster ordinance.
Okay.
The state has a 300-foot requirement, but again, that's only in the cannabis licensing. It's not in the daycare licensing component. And federally, drug-free zones technically do not apply to daycare centers, but if you establish a drug-free zone, it allows for prosecution. That's really the intent behind the drug-free zone around a daycare facility, is you could prosecute someone who has or is using drugs. But there's no specific requirement in the daycare licensing component about 300 feet. It is the state's requirement from the cannabis licensing.
I got you. And I was just curious because that came up tonight, and I was trying to get just a bit of clarity. I know in the past we had persons from the daycare across the street come up and speak to those matters. That was also the reason why I asked about Ms. Sullivan's process date of when she started and everything like that, because there were calls that came through with concerns when the additional dispensary opened up that hadn't been discussed yet. So, all right, that answers everything for me at this time. Commissioner Daniels, did you have some additional?
I just was gonna ask, if we do recommend this for denial, does she have the opportunity to come back, or is?
So I would recommend at this point
to table it,
to
as
table
opposed to, so she can, okay. I just wanted to be clear on that.
Or alternatively, you could recommend with conditions if you were to.
Or we could recommend approval with the required conditions.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Hall.
And you currently do have a daycare already, right?
Yes, sir, I do.
Or any further questions, commissioners, before we turn it over to the general public? I'm sure we've exhausted Ms. Sullivan by now.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, I'm Commissioner Davis. Oh, you can put your glass up, I'm sorry. All right, anybody from the general public at this time that wishes to speak to the matters 337 Inkster Road for a child care facility, you are welcome to approach the podium at this time. Please state your name for the record.
I am Christine Barge, resident of the city of Inkster. And because of the traffic, the past traffic, and the way that parking lot is broken up, I personally do not think that that is a conducive site for children, for a daycare center. The adjoining buildings and businesses are not conducive. And there, of course, in the evening are probably more people, but I, being of a certain age, have frequented 315 with my medical years past. And I know that there is a bunch of old people stumbling around in that parking lot during the day before the other people just come in to get happy. There are a lot of medical people. There were, at a point, a lot of medical people who frequented that area. And I just don't think it's conducive for children. You don't know what kind of drivers you got coming in or out. And it just doesn't seem like the safest place to me. I think that there are other areas that would be better for that facility.
All right, thank you, Ms. Barge.
David Newsom.
David Newsom, good evening.
I kind of wanted to go based off of what she said. She kind of is right, but if we really look at Inkster, where is the perfect place to put a daycare? Well, I wouldn't even Yeah, I will say that. Like, where is the perfect place? There's no perfect place to set any kids. There's no perfect place to put any elderly people where they can have a good walk or anything of that sort. In my opinion, we need to reach toward trying to do something for the kids, because what do the kids have? Excuse me. What do the kids have in Inkster? Nothing that I really see. And I've been here my whole life. We don't really have parks. We don't really have even playscapes. So why not? That's my question. And that's all.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the general public who wishes to speak at this matter to these matters before we close the public
I
hearing?
just have a question, Sandra Watley, Inkster resident. Are we violating our own ordinance with this 500 feet thing?
So the question
I heard what she said about.
I was going to answer it.
Oh, okay.
So when we asked about the 500 feet city ordinance, that's for the city. The state is 300 feet, but those are for requirements for the marijuana cannabis industry. Those are not requirements for the daycare.
Okay, but ours says that there's drug-free zones in these areas, don't they? And that's 500 feet. I just want to know how we're managing this, because like I said before, it's all in how we feel. We ain't following no standard at all.
I understand what you're saying, but we need to, I guess we could pull up the drug-free zone definition and see who it applies to. Does that apply to daycares and cannabis, or cannabis only?
But because of the daycare center across the street and the big hoopla when 315 was there, we changed the ordinance to include daycare centers.
But I'm saying for clarity purposes, I understand exactly what you're saying, but does that apply to the requirements for the daycare that they can't go?
If we say you can't be in 300 feet, but you say, yes, I want to be, we're supposed to say, that's okay?
Nobody said that.
But that's what I'm asking. That's what I'm hearing.
What I asked is, who does it apply to in the drug-free zone? Does that specifically apply to the requirements for cannabis, or does that apply for daycares?
Tell me the difference.
I'm asking.
Tell me the difference.
That's why I said we need to, that's why I said we're going to bring it up. That's why I said we're going to bring it up.
We're talking about a cannabis.
Ms. Dixon, can you pull up the definition of drug-free zones, please?
So if this person decides to call themselves a cannabis, then it's okay. They can't be there. But since they're calling themselves a daycare center and it's still close enough to the cannabis to violate our ordinance, that's okay? I'm trying to find out.
Wait, that's why I'm asking the planning department to pull up the definition so we could discuss this now.
I need to find out what our standard is, because right
That's
now
why we're
it
pulling
looks
up
like
the
we just do
definition,
what
so
we feel like doing.
Just hold on for 1 second, Ms. Wiley.
Did I sit down wrong way?
Yes. And that's just for clarity matters, so we could have a full understanding at this point.
So the definition, drug-free zone means any library, church, child care center, licensed daycare facility, preschool program center, primary, intermediate or secondary school, city-owned playgrounds or facilities similar to those listed. However, there is no language in the ordinance that applies drug-free zone requirements to child care facilities. To the chairman's point, drug-free zone requirements are only applied to marijuana establishments. And that's also how the states, I've combed through, I spent many hours combing through the state's requirements for both marijuana and daycare facilities, and the state's requirements at no point in their child care licensing apply drug-free zones, requirements or separation requirements for marijuana or any other business type.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Watley, I know you.
Yeah, clarification purposes.
Go right ahead.
Let me get this straight, okay?
Okay.
The marijuana can't move to the daycare, but the daycare can move to the marijuana. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Exactly.
Does anybody but me think that's stupid?
That was my first question.
No, I'm not talking about the state of Michigan. We here make our rules. I mean, that's how we got an ordinance that says 500 feet. Now, suddenly we're going to say, if you decide you want to be there, that's okay. But if he decides he wants to be there, that's not okay. Where's the equity in that? I'm just confused.
No, we got your point.
I need a standard. See, I'm a rule person. You give me the rule, I can follow it. But when you go change it every other week because somebody felt like it, I get confused. And then I do silly things like argue with people.
No, thank you, Ms. Wiley. Ms. Sullivan, did you have some additional or?
Yes, sir. So
Okay.
I do agree with her as far as following rules. However, it's not however, but I will say that child care centers are needed. The state of Michigan, I know the cities have their own rules and the state have their own rules, but I would hope that the city would receive or accept the state rules because the state they do a lot of research. They know the different things that to keep things running. I'll say that. Another thing is that a dispensary is a retail place. So although we know there's, some of us consider it drugs or whatnot, we know that they're not going to be standing outside using drugs. Mm-hmm. They're purchasing, that's like purchasing a shirt and leaving. So it's not like children would be smelling or, if that's the case, then the neighbors would be complaining as well. Retail is retail. They're selling and they're leaving. They're not allowed to smoke. They're not allowed to utilize or in the area. I don't even believe they're allowed to have their packaging and stuff left out on the ground. I believe that's would be cause for some type of fine or whatnot as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I do understand the city being strict or wanting to enforce rules, but as you said, sir, the rule is for a dispensary moving in, not for, the other way around.
No, I got you, and I understand exactly. Basically, it's like one of those gray areas at this moment, so I understand Ms. Wiley's concern. That's why I asked for the drug-free zone definition to be read into the record, just for clarity purposes. I get it. I get it. I'm sorry. I think we have some more questions from the commissioners or comments.
Well, mine was more of a comment.
Go right ahead.
And to Councilwoman Watley's concern, when I was going over this, I had kind of the same question. I was like, what is the difference? I'm like, but when I thought about it, there's different ways that you can look about these things, because really I believe what the state of Michigan's intent, and I can't speak for them, but what I got, and I think everybody has a right to their own perspective, yes, but what I walked away with is if you're an established business, it keeps them from encroaching, the marijuana businesses from encroaching on people who don't have a voice.
Yes,
but
ma'am.
if you look at that established and say, I'm willing to take this chance, you can take the chance if you want to take that chance. And so we all have that, we have a right to be able to do it, whether we like it or not, right. But, the other way around prevents somebody from not having a voice at all. Yes, that's the way I looked at it. And I'm not saying that there's an inequity in the law. It's just, it protects two different things for two different reasons. So you can look at it two different ways. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Forgive me, because I think I moved too briefly, but that was the reason why I applied for 1 to 15 opposed to 100 or 50, because I could have very well built in another bathroom and then I would have been able to apply, but I wanted to start small to build upon. So this area to me would be the perfect area to start small. And then although I am still looking for other spaces, because of the main objective is to continue on. It's not just to have one. Like I said, we have one, in Dearborn. I would like to have a facility larger than 50 or 100. I do believe that minorities need to be in this type of business, because our children need to understand. They need to learn early on. They need to learn different type of businesses, and they just need to be taught early on. I've worked in school districts, and I've seen where children, they know how to scroll through YouTube, but they don't know how to type their name into the computer. So these are the type of things that I want to bring, to the city of Inkster. I work with children already. They're not, I would like to offer these services, and this is the only spot that I was able to secure to do so. So I hope that you guys consider and be open-minded, know that the children's safety is my priority, with type of daycare would you have or child learning center would you have if the safety is not the goal? Safety and education is the goal. The brain develops faster pace from the age of newborn to 5 years old. So if I'm able to get my hands on as many children as I can from those ages, I believe that we can develop better individuals. We complain about a lot of killing and stuff in Inkster. And probably why is because they're at home, you know, seeing whatever when they could be in a center or be in a positive environment, you know, learning. And maybe that'll help their parents, you know, do different. I don't know. But like I said, if you guys would be open-minded. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Was there anything additional, Commissioner Hayes Bradford, Commissioner Daniels, Commissioner Hall, Commissioner Williams, Commissioner Davis? And I know we were at the general public for a second, and a couple of people did get up and speak. Did anybody else need an opportunity to speak to these matters during the public hearing? All right, hearing none. Planning Department, was there anything additional?
Not at this time.
Okay, not this time, thank you. The floor is open for a motion to close the public hearing for item B, case number 23-07, special land use, child care facility at 337 Inkster Road.
So moved. Support.
It's been properly moved and supported to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Public hearing is now closed, and of course, we'll be voting on these matters under new business. We're down to item number C, case number 23-08, special land use. Mixed-use business and residential at 715 Inkster Road. The floor is open for, the floor is open for a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
It's been properly moved and supported. Any unreadiness? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Public hearing now open. Ms. Dixon, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman Chisholm. This application is for special land use for reoccupancy of the vacant 4,900 square foot building at 715 Inkster Road. This is just south of the St. Norbert School. I believe it was formerly Starfish Family Services. The
That school, for the record, is Inkster Preparatory Academy.
I apologize.
No problem. That was the old school. That's all.
The applicant, Dr. Omar Rahal, and his organization, iMatch Path to Residency, would like to use this building for temporary housing for medical students. The students will be working at Dr. Rahal's clinic in Dearborn. His partner hope to use the building that is already set up for kind of dormitory type housing to keep the students here for 1 to 2 months and provide transportation to the clinic and the grocery store. It would create a type of community for them as they live here. And there would be a floor for women and a floor for men, and then some learning area in the basement. And the site is zoned B2, thoroughfare mixed use, and so this is a special land use. We believe that this is harmonious with the master plan. The master plan future land use map designates this area as public, semi-public. This kind of proposed use of a semi-educational residential lodging, I would kind of classify it as a semi-public use. It's harmonious with the existing character. They're not proposing any significant change to the building on the outside. Again, the kind of educational residential nature is consistent with the use to the north as well. We believe that this currently vacant building being occupied by bringing in new visitors and, you know, people who potentially could relocate to the area as they continue working on their medical degree or into their medical career would be beneficial to the community. We believe there's adequate public services and have not received any comments from the city engineer, police, or fire at this point. We don't believe there will be an excess of smoke, fume, glare, noise, or odor. We don't believe there will be an erosion or reduction of economic viability. In fact, I think it could potentially help some of that area, especially towards Inkster Road in Michigan, the grocery store, and some of the services there that these potential residents could frequent. And then We believe at this time that it could be consistent with the zoning ordinance. The issue again is going to be around parking. The parcel, when it was split without any parking or kind of any pavement designation. So there's an easement with that access driveway with the school. Originally, that building, I believe, was part of the school. So whoever drove the property line kind of gave it this arbitrary line that doesn't include any parking. I know Dr. Rahal has been working to try and get in contact with the property owners of the school to see if they would be in agreement of a shared parking agreement, because they do have quite a bit of parking on that side of the building. He hasn't been able to get in contact successfully with anyone. He's also proposed potentially submitting a site plan with some parking area in the front yard. This type of use, because they're residents and they wouldn't be having their own vehicles, would have a very limited amount of parking that would be needed, but at this point, that is the one concern that we noted. We do want to note also that the residential apartments must meet the minimum space requirements by the zoning and building code. We have deferred to the city's building official to ensure the interior units meet the minimum space requirements and all other building requirements. We do find that this site, with the existing landscaping, complies with the zoning ordinance requirements, which is another kind of additional use standard for this type of use. So at this point, we don't have anything else to note for this case. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions at this time before we ask the applicant to approach? No? Okay. I guess, Ms. Dixon, somewhere in there, maybe after the meeting or something like that, I'll pull up 715 Inkster Road, because I guess the college owns that building, who certifies the academy to actually own and operate. They sent their lawyers to our meeting the last time that the AFC home tried to occupy, and they were quoting our ordinances and laws back and forth. So we got their contact information somewhere. Not sure how come the applicant hasn't been able to reach them, but just to kind of mitigate those particular matters, I guess we'll do that somewhere in here.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Is that anyone representative? Please approach and state your name for the record, sir.
First of all, thank you, Ms. Dixon, for your time. Thank you guys for the time to listen to me. So my name is I'm Dr. Rahal. I'm internal medicine doctor. I did my training at Beaumont Dearborn Hospital, Oakwood. So just to give an introduction how things work to become an internal medicine doctor, most of the doctors that do their training at Beaumont, they're IMGs. So IMGs, international medical graduates. So they're doctors who graduated from somewhere, Africa, Middle East, South America, and then they apply for training here, to do training in the US, to do internal medicine, surgery, pediatrics, whatever. So part of this application, those doctors who graduated abroad, they have to have a US clinical experience. So they apply for clinical rotations, whether inpatient or outpatient. They have to come for at least 1 month to get a letter of recommendation from a US medical doctor. So part of the interview selection, I'm also a professor at Wayne State, being part of that interview selection, we usually get about 2,000 applicants, 3,000 applicants every year. We select 200 out of them, and out of those 200, we only get 13 doctors to train at the hospital. Now, we've been getting a lot of applications for doctors to come and do clinical rotations in my clinic or in the hospital to get a letter of recommendation. Now, those students that are coming from abroad, they've been, for example, living in an Airbnb or a house, or trying to find places to live. So we came up with an idea: why don't we, find a shared facility for those doctors, and try to, make a educational facility. So let's say the first floor is for females, the second floor is for males. The basement is a workshop setting where you can do didactics. It's more of an educational environment rather than having doctors separated between houses and homes. So that's that's basically a summary of that project.
Thank you. This is a public hearing, and we're going to go ahead and turn it over to the general public. If there's anyone that is here that wishes to speak to the matters at 715 Inkster Road, please approach the podium at this time and state your name for the record. And seeing no one from the general public. Commissioners, do you have anything additional at this time?
I have a question.
Go right ahead.
Oh, there he was. I thought he was. How long do you expect, I think I missed it, but how long are these residents staying in this housing?
It's about a 1 month.
1 month?
Yeah, so that's why it works like it's not an apartment complex, because they're not coming for 6 months or a year. They're coming for a month. Some of them, they will apply for like a combined rotation where they come for 8 weeks or 12 weeks. But I would say 90% of them, they come for a 4-week rotation, whether it's in the clinic or in the hospital.
So how frequently are these rooms occupied? Is it more of a vacancy rate, or?
So you can think about, we can get about 10 to 15 students, new students every month.
New students every month?
Yeah, or student doctors, yeah.
Okay. And are there any specific area of study, or is it?
Yeah, the areas that we're sending students to are Beaumont Dearborn, Beaumont Taylor, and we're gonna do Beaumont Wayne too, Annapolis. And then we have a couple, cardiology office, nephrology office that we work with doctors, I have my clinic on Michigan Avenue here around.
So everybody, though, that's there is coming as an abroad student. It's not no one from here could be a participate.
Unless they did their medical school abroad. Like I know, for example, many Americans, for example, they don't get accepted in the U.S. medical schools. They go to the Caribbean, for example, and they're looking for a U.S. clinical experience. Because if you're a U.S. medical student, then you have Wayne State, or you have, other universities where they offer you clinical rotations. Those clinical rotations are offered for students who are not under like a U.S. medical school.
Yes, okay, thank you.
All righty. Anything additional? Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, how long do you participate this plan that this building is gonna be used for that? 1 year, 2 year, months? Well, how long before it come vacant again?
Excuse me, before what?
For that it don't become vacant, a vacant building again. It's vacant right now.
Yeah.
So how long you don't use this building for that?
As long as there is a hospital, I mean, it's a long-term project,
It's a long-term project.
And then Beaumont, not Beaumont no more, right?
Huh?
Beaumont is not Beaumont no more.
Corwell, yeah.
Yeah.
All righty. All set, Commissioner Davis? All right. Anybody else?
I do have something, just
Mr.
because it says, so you have found that there is a need for this, like, so, because what he
Definitely.
said does make a lot of sense, so there's a need for this.
Sure.
And we're finding that they don't have a place to come
No.
to be able to do their clinicals,
Mm-hmm.
and this would be the ideal
Yeah.
for those
And-
people
and-
that's going abroad and need the U.S.
Yeah, and there is no educational like setting. Like everybody's coming that I know, they find an Airbnb here, or living here, and they're just just.
Yes. Okay.
All set. Commissioner.
I'm sorry. Okay. There's no prerequisite for them to live in those in this housing project. I'm a landlord, okay, I'll put it out there.
Uh-huh.
I have to do background screening, I have to check people and all of that. What are you guys doing?
Yeah, so for them to be accepted for this rotation, we have to go through an entire process of screening. Screening in terms like vaccination, in terms of like background, records. It's not everyone who applies gets accepted. You need to be like in a good standard, level to be eligible for that. It's not like open to everyone who just graduated from medical school.
So you don't have a criminal element floating in that
Well, to do the clinical rotations, we don't do the criminal part, but I think when it comes to housing, I think this is something that we should incorporate because they'll have to be living with other people, So in terms, actually, that's a good question because I don't think we do the criminal screening when we get students from like doctors from abroad. But I think if they're gonna be like, we're offering housing, it's like, for example, you have a house and you wanna rent an Airbnb for 2 days. Do you do a criminal screening?
Yes. Well, you said Airbnb.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not doing Airbnb.
Let's
yeah.
say for example, like most of people who do Airbnbs, I don't think they go through if they're renting someone like for 3 days or like a week or two. I'm not sure if they do the criminal background check for those
That
people.
is a part of the process.
I think it should be.
It's
Yeah.
not part of my process. I do know it is a part of Airbnb, but there's a whole corporation that does that for them.
I think to protect everyone, I think we should, if we went into that project, we should incorporate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that would be good for you as well as us.
I know.
Alrighty, anything additional, Commissioner?
Thank you.
Commissioner Hall.
Yes, I don't know if you guys ever saw the inside of that building.
I have.
Oh, yeah, it's real nice. It used to be like a girls' home or something.
Yeah.
And I said I own Airbnb, so that's why I was like, because I used to rent to nurses that come in town, travel nurses. So I get where you're going.
You won't agree because I'll be in competition with them.
So there's no jealousy. Anything additional, Commissioner Hall?
No.
Anything else from this body?
No.
All right, anything else from the general public since the commissioners have spoken and since the applicant has spoken? And anything additional from planning?
Not this time.
Alrighty, thank you. The floor is open for a motion to close the public hearing for item C.
So moved. Support.
It's been properly moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The public hearing is now closed. We're down to item D, case number 23-01 TA, text amendments. Amendments to the city zoning ordinance, being chapter 155, article 29, to include additional definitions and including additional uses and standards in article 146. The floor is open for a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion to open public hearing.
Support.
It's been properly moved and supported. Any unreadiness? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Ms. Dixon, you got the floor.
Thank you, Chairman Chisholm. If you recall, we discussed these zoning amendments at the May meeting. We are having the official public hearing so that we can potentially move forward with adoption. These additional uses and definitions are based on multiple requests we've received from applicants over the past year, couple of months, where people have repeatedly come and said, we want to open a towing service storage yard, we want to open a rental hall, we want to open a banquet facility, a truck depot, food processing, personal service establishment. We've kind of defined, even though that's already a use that's included in the zoning ordinance. And so we're just trying to make our zoning ordinance easier to administer and also reacting to the fact that there's a desire in the community to open these types of businesses. The one difference I will draw your attention to is in the food processing section, we have added any business that is meat processing and performs the slaughter of animals, that has additional requirements under food processing. It will still be a special land use as in the industrial district, and then we would have the banquet facility and rental hall permitted in the B2 and B3 district. Nursing homes would be added as a special land use to the B1, and then there's a second part of this ordinance amendment, which is the sign standards for the town center district. The zoning ordinance currently does not have any sign standards for the the TCD. So technically, the TCD is its own district. It doesn't classify as a business district or office district, although that's what we've been applying. We're suggesting that these guidelines that the DDA adopted in 2018 be added to the zoning ordinance so that we can actually codify those and use those as the standard. The DDA did go through a lot of work to think critically about the zoning standards for signs in the district. A lot of it is consistent with the business districts, but there's some additional thought given to projection signs to make sure that the residential nature of the area is maintained, lettering on wall-mounted signs, painted window or door signs. I think it just adds a little bit of extra clarity and some extra requirements to make sure that when we start bringing in more development to that town center district, that it's creates a certain destination type feel. That was the goal of the DDA. So I'm not gonna sit and read through the entire DDA guideline, TCD sign standards, but that's the intent behind it.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, at this time, you heard a bullet point review, if you will, from some things we kind of briefly touched on at our last meeting. Thank you for restating that, Ms. Dixon, for the general public and for those viewing. Do you have anything at this time that you wish to ask or comment on? All right, not at the moment. I do have one thing that came up when you talked about, I guess, signage in the TCD. Just overall, do we have anything in our ordinance that speaks to flags
Yes.
under the signs? What is it?
So are we referring to the flag signs that you kind of put in the ground that are tall?
That you
and-
could order offline or something like that, yes.
So technically, those are temporary signs. Business is allowed one per frontage. They
Okay.
cannot be more than 48 square feet, and they are not supposed to be there for more than 30 days. So
Okay.
then they would have to come back and apply again if they want to put it back out. This is again, another code enforcement initiative that the planning department has been working with, and they have started issuing tickets for businesses that have either never applied for a temporary sign, have been out for longer than 30 days, there are multiple, because I know there's locations with multiple flags as well. And so it's a work in progress. I know it's kind of, a lot of the property owners are, prickling a little bit because they've kind of had these for some period of time now. But that is how the ordinance requirements are stated.
In that, because I know, you're just driving all over the city, we see it and we really think nothing of it until a business owner calls and reports their neighbor, because they say, I'm following the ordinance, but my neighbor not. Is our flag, it has happened, is ours in, I guess, comparable to the surrounding communities, or is ours stricter than the surrounding communities?
I can't speak to the specific standards in Westland, for instance, or Dearborn, but just from driving through Westland and my little bit of familiarity with their code, I know, like, for instance, they allow the flags on, like, the auto dealerships and things of that nature. And I know in Dearborn, there's also seems like it's less strict in some cases. I don't know if it's exactly relatable in terms of the flag signs. There potentially could be, if there's a desire from this body, I know there's been a desire from property owners that there's more, I want to say, a relaxation of this requirement to allow for a little bit more drumming up of business. Let's, let us do a little bit more and make it a little less strict so that they can be a little more creative. So I've heard that, but right now I'm simply following the code as it's stated.
No, thank you. And I guess my last thing before we turn it back over to anyone else, and the general public, with that, how does the ordinance speak to with signage if, and it could be in the TCD, for instance, just say they don't have a sidewalk in front of them, right? Because there was one never there, it wasn't required at the time for them to put one there, but now we had a sidewalk replacement program in place. But our ordinance speaks to no signage on the city property, which would be on the ones in between the sidewalk and the street. but then some establishments don't even have a sidewalk. What is determination between where their actual property starts, where they're allowed to put signs on their property?
It would be the parcel line, so we still have a plat map that says your building comes to the property line. And this is something that other communities also experience and that people have had trouble with is, I want to put a flag out on the sidewalk. Unfortunately, that's not your property, so you can, have an awning sign, you could have a window sign, you could have a variety of other types of signs that attach to your building, but you can't have that free ground sign, because you don't have, your property line is exactly where your building frontage is.
I hope you all have your umbrellas. That sounds kind of
I do have mine.
different outside. Thank you for that. And I was asking, and maybe those are some matters we can, look at more in depth in the future with that, just for the simple fact that I know we'll discuss something like that here, but if we don't make or update, something that reflects all of that, and then it has happened where ordinances went by and took up signs from a church because it was technically considered on city property, but there was no sidewalk. And then they came to the city saying, we need our signs back. And they're like, well, we don't have them. But ordinance removed them by any way, however, because their interpretation is it was on city property. The church said it was on their property. And so since nothing really speaks to that, that's one of those gray matters. And everybody's interpretation is different. So thank you for that. It just triggered my memory or my question because you had talked about signage in the TCD. So Commissioner Davis.
We should have some statement about the easement rights.
Yeah.
Easement rights.
No, absolutely. Because I think when you speak to that, a lot of citizens and business owners aren't necessarily aware of when utility poles are in the back and things of that nature, and how over the years people just extended their backyards, but the city has never vacated alleys. So on plots, there's still an alley there, and the citizens think they have the right to block that off and plant all around it and stuff. And unfortunately, because of utility rights and easement rights, they don't. All right, anything additional, Commissioner Davis? Commissioner Williams, Commissioner Hall, Commissioner Daniels, Commissioner Hayes Bradford?
No, sir.
All right, and general public, again, do you have anything to these text amendments to speak on about? Go right ahead. Too much walking.
Huh?
Too much walking.
No, too much everything. Number one, I think really we need to start paying more attention to this, because she mentioned meat processing. Does this include livestock? They're bringing livestock in Inkster? 6
Yes.
square miles?
Yes.
Okay, these are things we need to think about before we do this. And didn't we just do, within the last 3 years, a whole sign ordinance again?
We talked about it. I can't remember if we actually voted, but I do remember
because
a
I was
discussion.
working with Don Wall when they brought it up. And in fact, I can bring it to you all or email something to you all.
You can
But
email
I
it.
think we need to stop deciding things before we actually read all the intricacies of them, because that's how we got with this, you can be there, but you can't, I can come near you, but you can't come near me type ordinances and things of that nature. So I'm just saying that hearing this, because I do believe we did a sign thing within the last 3 years. And some real considerations needs to go into meat packing plants here, because there's so many offshoots to these things that we need to make sure we have our ducks in a row. And if you look at our ordinances now, all of you all who have read them know we don't have our ducks in a row too often, okay? So that's my comment.
Just quick question, Ms. Dixon or Mr. Dowdell. This would be something that we'll be referring, it's a public hearing here, we're voting on it, but this would be something to be referred to city council as well, right?
That's correct. They'll
Okay.
have to go through first and second reading.
Okay. Yep, Ms. Wiley, when you have an opportunity, feel free to send us the sign ordinance information that you're referring to.
Okay.
Thank you. General public. Is there anybody else from the general public who wishes to speak to these matters? Seeing and hearing none, the floor is open for a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close public hearing.
Support.
So moved.
It's been properly moved and supported. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Public hearing is now closed. we're moving down to item number 6, unfinished business, and we have none. So now we're down to item number 7, new business. Item 7A, case number 23-06, special land use, tattoo establishment at 161 Middle Belt Road. Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
Consider recommendation of approval of special land use request for a tattoo establishment in the B2 Thoroughfare Ridge District at 161 Middlebelt.
Support.
It's been properly moved and supported. Discussion. I just have one more follow-up question, and I had meant to just ask, because I know you're dealing with needles and things of that nature. As far as like illnesses, you spoke of COVID earlier, and when that occurred, how do you go about, I guess, mitigating any type of spread, or when you have an Commissioner Davis or Commissioner Willis, when either one of you speak, you just make sure to turn the microphone back on. What's it when you speak? That's all. How do you go about that process? Because I know, like with some establishments in the past, the way they traced, and of course a lot of them, if someone was diagnosed with something and that establishment or entity found out, they sent a notification to all of those persons to let them know the potential of them being exposed had arisen, but not that they were necessarily exposed. How do you handle those types of situations and or any type of sicknesses if someone comes in and they coughing and sneezing like they got a cold or severe allergies? Can you come to the microphone? I'm sorry.
Yes, the temp, we check the temp when you come in.
Oh, you check the temperature?
Yeah, and
Okay.
everything is also disposable.
Gotcha.
But there are also exposure control plans that are set in place as well.
So exposure control mask, and then check the temperature and everything's disposable.
Exposure control plans.
Oh, plans,
So
okay.
a full layout of what would happen in an instance if somebody came in sick or if somebody contracted something from the shop, whether we would have to go through the client paperwork. Because also on the client paperwork, if they are ill or if they do have any type of medical condition, they are required to list it onto the client paperwork as well.
Okay, thank you. And forgive me for that. I've only been in a tattoo establishment once, and it was to watch. So, don't get mad at me.
Oh, no.
So
No.
look,
That's a valid question.
I ain't never been.
That's a valid question.
But to him, it means that he has to come visit the tattoo shop.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said to you, it just means that you have to come visit the shop.
Oh. Alrighty.
Half off at 313 days.
You're right.
Half off 313 day. Look at that. Y'all can put him in the PR division. All right, commissioners, we are in discussion. I did open it up. I started this off. If you have anything additional, feel free at this time. Commissioner Daniels? Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Nope. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Hearing the...
I think he moved it. I'll support it.
Yep. So hearing... What's wrong?
I'm sorry, I know everything's over. I don't want to disrupt your but I just wanted to know if they're licensed, do they have to have a license or some sort of certificate? And is it supposed to be applicable when a person comes into your
So
establishment?
as far as license, you need to have a license from the state, the city, and the county health department.
Okay.
So it's 3 actually.
Okay.
And then for artists, individuals, we have to have
Turn your microphone back on. There. Hold it back on. No, I'm about to... that's all for my conversation. Alrighty. I'm sorry. We are at the new business portion. You all feel free to touch base afterwards, but we got to keep going. So the floor is open for it's been properly moved and seconded. We're through discussion. So all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We're down to item 7B. Case number 23-07, special land use childcare facility at 337 Inkster Road.
I move for approval with conditions that the conditions of the Board of Zoning and Appeals, the site plan and Laura have been met.
Is there support?
Support.
It's been properly moved and supported. Is there discussion or any further discussion?
I would have loved to table it since we had so much dialogue on it as opposed to approving it or denying it.
If the maker of the motion and the supporter of the motion wishes to amend or rescind, it is.
It was a lot of conversation on this.
I'd like mine to stand. Like it to stand.
Okay. All right, so the amendment was not accepted. Is there any further discussion? We got that one out. Anybody else? Yes.
Far as the lure, you mean far as?
Licensing and regulations
Licensing.
in the state of Michigan.
Gotcha, okay. For her to get that then,
She's gotta
do a lot.
do all of that
okay,
before she gets her full approval.
okay.
Yes, please approach the podium.
Oh, okay. So, I will not be able to receive anything from Laura until you guys decide if I can even move forward with building first. So it's really, if you are willing to allow me to use this space for this, and then if so,
But that comes through the site plan stuff, right? That's part of the,
To meet the outdoor play space, to meet the outdoor play area requirement, you would need the zoning board of appeals approval for the reduction of parking and then site plan approval for the building of the play area. At that point, the special land use would be approved, and then Laura would receive the zoning verification. They would then make sure that everything else occurs that is needed.
So we gotta do the 2 versus the lure right now.
it's actually 3, right?
Yeah.
What? Oh, you.
It's 3.
3 what?
It's zoning, board of appeals,
Oh,
it's the site plan,
Right.
and it's Laura.
That's right.
gotcha. Ms. Dixon?
So we can't verify that Laura would give her
So
approval
it's 2.
until the special land use, the zoning board of appeals, and the site plan is met.
Right.
That's the final step, is the Laura approval. Just so that you're clear of what the process looks like, you would have to have the city approvals, and then the state approval would be the final step before she could open, and that's true in any case.
So would there be any, how can I say it, would we be doing any type of disservice to ourselves as a committee by doing this approval now, or just tabling it? Which is there one that's better than the other?
That was what I was gonna ask about. Go ahead, Commissioner.
No, I was saying, so Laura's gonna be last.
Right.
So how about we just do the 2, the site plan?
And the zoning board of appeal.
Yes.
Zoning Board of Appeals first and then site plan second, correct? Is that the order we would need to follow?
They can move contingent on each other, so
Oh,
they
okay.
don't have to move one before the other. It really will be whatever the dates come up.
Okay.
And I just, not to influence anybody, just so you guys know, a lot of times the ZBA looks to kind of see what was all discussed here. And so sometimes it's one of those catch-22 things, because they want to make sure they're in alignment with us, and we're trying to make sure we're in alignment with them, but it's not like a joint meeting. So I just wanted to put that out there for you guys, because this happened before. Unfortunately, nothing ended up going through with that particular applicant, because they were literally asking us to violate our own ordinances. Like it was spelled out in the ordinance, no, but they want us to. But I just wanted to point that out. So whatever the decision is, whether it's tabled, whether it's a recommend approval or recommend denial, the ZBA is looking at that as well.
Can I
Go
ask
ahead,
a question?
Commissioner Dunn.
So if we table it, does it give her more time to be able to do some of the things that's needed to be done, or it's just actually putting you on hold?
I'm definitely put on hold until you guys even approve me being able to use this as a special land use. So even if I decided to use a playground and not building a playground at that area, I still could not move forward until you guys say, yes, I can use this space as special land use.
And we're really not saying yes, we're
Right.
just approving recommendation for yes.
Yeah, so I
would
guess
that
I
would
said that wrong.
keep everything moving forward?
So
But
I
still-
just want to provide a point of clarity for
Okay.
the applicant as well.
Right, yes, ma'am.
The vote tonight would be recommending the special land use contingent upon site plan approval and your parking reduction from the zoning board of appeals. Unless you decided to do the infant daycare, which you would probably want to build into your motion as well. You know,
Okay.
or you're approved and decide to utilize a local park and playground. I know there's certain distancing requirements, so I would add those contingencies as well. In that case, she would be able to move forward if she were to decide to go either of those other routes, but only if the body's comfortable with those contingencies.
Thank you, Ms. Dixon.
So just so we're clear, because we don't want to stop her from doing what she's trying to do, we definitely don't want to deny her. I shouldn't say we.
We understand.
We agree with that.
I just want to make sure that we have enough time, because like I said, a lot of discussion came up in this, and we asked this body, you know, before it goes to council, we want to make sure that we have really did everything that we know to do to make sure that she's comfortable, we're comfortable, and that the city council is comfortable. That was why I said to move with the table in it, so we can actually give ourselves time to educate ourselves a little bit more, because we learned some stuff that we did not know, especially with regard to what's the difference between marijuana, 300 feet, and daycare. You know, so those kind of things we need to really talk, you know, think about when we are making these kind of discussions, and that parking lot and sand denial right up front. So I'm just thinking, that was my reasoning behind that. But in the same breath, I do not want to deny, I don't want to stop her from moving forward with what she.
Thank you, Commissioner Daniels. Commissioner Williams, you have something?
Well, I guess my concern is how it's coming to the body now. So a special land use request for a child care facility based on, okay, I guess I kind of got lost among the whole thing. So what she's currently proposing is a child care facility at this facility with not just infants, but you want to go from 6 weeks to 14 years. Yeah, I guess I need to.
So, this request,
Yes.
I would also like to remind the body, if you were approving or recommending approval with these conditions, I'll get to your question in a second, but she is not, I know we talked a lot about this idea of parking and creating a play area. The benefit of tabling it would be to then make it contingent with the site plan. So you would be happy with the design of the play area, and that's, you know, the kind of how those two work together. Because as of right now, there's no formal proposal other than what we've discussed as a group, which I think was very much of value, because without that discussion and without that understanding that that would be a path forward, that's where that denial came from, right? Is there was those concerns. So that's the benefit, is if you table it, then you also could clarify if it were to be an infant daycare, or if the facility were to use a park or some other recreational area, then that would be the defining component.
Go ahead.
Can I propose this question to the applicant?
Go right ahead.
Okay, so, young lady, what I guess, so that we can be on one page, because we're all citizens of the city of Inkster. We all have, children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren for the remainders of us. So we definitely know that there's a need for that. But, so as you're bringing it to this body now, and before it can get even, after, if we even send it and take it to the mayor and council, it's the same thing is gonna come to again. So the question that we have for you at this moment, based on what you've presented to the planning department, that is why it was recommended for it to be denied, because of the playground contingency. So, and we understand that you do feel and you have a willingness to make that adjustment. So as you're bringing it to this body at this time,
were you bringing it to this body as an infant care, or were you bringing this into the body where you really want to go from 6 weeks to 14?
So the primary goal was the 6 weeks to 14. It was just brought to me recently because I was discussing with the licensing consultant the issues of why, because my ultimate goal was to be open by October the 1st. So as we were discussing it, she said, well, if that doesn't happen, then you can do this, in which she gave me the idea of making it an infant center. That would limit what I'm trying to do, but that is an option. When you've spent as much money as I've spent into this project, you have to have other options.
Okay, so that answers my question. So at this point, planning department, if we table this, that would give this young lady the opportunity to explore the option that you really would like to see.
It would formally present the playground option, which is, I think, the applicant's, number one choice at this point. It would formally present that to this body so that, you would be happy with whatever playground design barrier that she would be providing, and you could then base your use decision on that contingency. Regardless, it's going to have to occur anyway, so, we've had this discussion with city council before about whether site plan approval should come before them at the same time kind of as the special land use recommendation. And I think there's been a desire, now it doesn't have to, there's no legal requirement of that, but there's definitely been a desire voiced at city council to see that site plan approval before that recommendation for special land use.
Okay.
Alrighty, so that you're satisfied? Okay, nothing else from planning, and I know there was a motion on the floor right now.
I would like to rescind that motion.
Okay.
And I would like to move that we table it, with the conditions that she is able to go through the zoning board of appeals, the site plan, Laura, and if all else fails, she'll be able to readjust to an infant daycare.
Support.
It's been properly moved and supported. Is there a specific date we're looking to table this? 30 days, or for our next meeting, or a time limit?
We should ask that question.
I would recommend for your next meeting.
Next meeting.
And if at that point the applicant isn't ready, you can table it to a further date.
Okay.
Okay, I move that it happens in our next meeting.
Okay, I just wanted to get out there. All right, and you still support that, Commissioner
Yes,
Downs?
sir.
All right, is there any further discussion on this new motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. That item has been tabled for the next planning commission meeting. All righty, item D. Case number 23-01, text amendment. Amendments.
I'm sorry.
No, with this one, C.
Oh,
715
I
Inkster Road.
wrote to the wrong thing. I'm sorry. That's my mistake. See what happened? Y'all take technology away from me? Case number 23-08, special land use. Mixed use business and residential at 715 Inkster Road. And that is item C. The floor is open for a motion to approve or recommend approval or recommend denial.
This was a parking issue, right?
Yes,
I think it was, I think we need to table this. Right, I think we need to table this because of the parking as well.
All right, well, floor is open for a motion, then we can go into discussion once it's moved and seconded, or moved and seconded. Floor is open for a motion going once.
All right, motion to table.
Is there support?
Support.
All right, it's been properly moved and supported. Discussion. Ms. Daniel, or Commissioner Daniels, you were talking about the parking portion. So I think that was kind of maybe the general consensus of everyone, with the shared parking. So just to recap, I know you said that that parking, however it was that house was probably with the school. And then it probably just never got divided until they sold it, but they never really discussed parking portions of that because there was a lot of tense discussion that night that the college's attorney, and I can't remember what college it was, so I'll have to look back at the minutes, came out and spoke to us because they were in opposition of that being an adult foster care home.
Yes, yeah, they were absolutely, they were livid.
And I don't
Yeah.
think they have a problem with a teaching facility.
And I know normally with shared parking with two businesses, we have some type of written documentation on file. So I guess because you are motioning to table it, and that is the main reason, like I said, I'll look at the notes and minutes to see who that representative was. So hopefully the applicant could potentially reach out to that college to get in touch. Just a question for the applicant. Were you able to get in touch with anybody at the school building itself or the school board?
Yeah, I went to the school
Mhm.
on the other side of the building. I talked to the director.
Come up to the podium for me, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I went to the front of the school. I talked to the director. I don't remember her name, and they gave me. So seems like this school is like a franchise school. It's not like one school. It's like has different spots in different places in the city. Like
Charter.
huh?
It's a charter institution.
Yeah. So they always referred me to the main one. You know, the main office that is in control of all the schools in different cities.
So you went to corporate, you went to the corporate division.
Yeah, and they never, I was never been able, you know, to reach the person who's responsible on making that decision about the parking. I tried twice, and no one. Then I got a builder, and he drew me a map of how I can do a parking lot in front of the building. So that's gonna be my plan B if they never agreed on sharing the facility.
Got you. Okay, so basically you did go to the building occupants, but you couldn't make any leeway.
No.
Okay, no problem. I just wanted clarity on that, that's all. Because I don't know how that all is set up, but because the college sent their attorneys out, clearly there's higher powers that they have to respond
Yeah.
to, and clearly somewhere
It's a
got
corporate,
lost
yeah.
in the communication thing. So, Commissioner
They
Davis.
do have some parking there. It's just not, they don't have the whole parking lot to park in.
Right.
Right.
And that's what I mentioned
It's
about
huge parking.
It's
a huge-
fenced in, they got the fenced in area. They got area to the west of the building where they may possibly make some parking there.
The planner's shaking her head no.
No?
But
No.
that's,
They don't even own the garage,
They
so
only on the garage?
No.
the property line, yeah, it's just the building in that fenced area. The garage is technically not part of the parcel that's being sold.
So they just got the fenced in area now,
Yeah, that's it.
behind the building,
Yes.
that's it.
Yes.
yeah, Commissioner Davis, I think what happened is like some things in the city, how it was both, for instance, Gracie C's, we just sold the parking lot the other night. That was owned by the city, but Gracie C's owned the building, but we were allowing them to park there. So it's one of those things where I think they sold the building, never sold any parking to whoever they sold the building to.
Secondary
Right,
parking.
so Gracie sees the parking lot is theirs now.
Right, because we just sold, we just. But I'm just using that as an example.
Okay, I understand, I understand.
All right, so you all set?
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Hayes Bradford.
So the thing is, regardless, we're not trying to necessarily go on a goose chase on the people who own it, because it sounds like you've got a builder and you're willing to do whatever else it is. So this can be like a contingency maybe until he gets his parking situation together? Is that something?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
There could be a condition, and I know that the applicant has expressed that he's under contract, but the final decision to purchase the property is kind of contingent upon the decision from city council.
So right now, we have a motion on the floor to table, and we were in discussion.
Right.
So, was there any further discussion?
So we're gonna table this here until we get information, or they get information or clarity on parking and how they're gonna be able to
Yeah, and,
go in their building.
yeah, and I guess
Because-
the question is.
Let Commissioner Davis finish
When
first.
they first started out, when they started the group home, and they was getting in touch with these people, they was adamant that they didn't want a group home there. So if we could start this process again, they may be come to a meeting or whatnot to speak with this guy here so he can have some parking, because this is not a group home. This is a facility for where they gonna be teaching or bringing interns in from other places.
But my thing is, would it make a difference? Let's say they said no. Then I'll go with my plan B and make the parking in front of the building.
And then we
So-
have a site plan review and all of that good stuff
Yeah.
too.
So I don't think,
Table till the solution is,
I don't think their agreement is gonna change anything. It's just gonna.
right.
Come on.
All right, I'm gonna say something at the end, but Commissioner Davis, you all set?
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Williams.
I'm good.
You good? Okay, what I was gonna do, like I said, is try to look back through when the applicant was here for 715 Inkster Road before, and find the minutes for the, after the meeting, to find out who that particular representative was and what college. So the applicant can work with the planning department and trying to make some type of contact with their higher ups, so we can figure that out. We're gonna do that immediately, and hopefully, I know we're tabling it and probably going back on our next meeting, so that way we can know exactly which way to go, and everybody's kind of still moving, not just at a standstill waiting to see what everybody else does. So is that okay with you guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
He also said his plan B is to come with a site plan
Right.
and put his parking lot behind the building and move
Or
forward.
in front of, yeah,
Right.
if,
But we would prefer.
So he don't have
Whether
to
he get-
be,
Whether he get permission
Tethered
to
to
park
the
or not,
school.
he got
plan B.
building, property behind his building where he can put parking.
so just say till he solves his parking solution.
okay, tabled until he solves his parking solution?
Right.
His
Right. Come
parking
up with his,
problem, rather.
Is that the amendment to the motion?
That's what I say.
Okay, is there still support for that?
Support.
Who made it?
Who made the
motion?
motion?
Actually, I made the table.
Hayes
So
made
it's gonna
it.
be a
and,
motion
No.
with
Oh, wait a minute.
contingent of his plan
Bill
B
made it.
coming up with, either talking with the group of people that be able to just do some shared parking, or he come up with his other plan to build his own parking lot on the property.
All right, so there was an amendment. You accept the amendment.
Yeah.
All right, and there's still support?
I support.
All righty. Any other further discussion? I'm sorry, did I see your hand go up, sir? Did I see your hand go up?
No.
Oh, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. These matters are now tabled as well.
I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So did we have a date until, just until,
The parking resolution.
uh,
I'm sorry.
That was to our next meeting.
is it till the next meeting? Because that's two different things now. It could be two
Oh, it
different
could
things,
be.
I'm saying.
So your motion was until the next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
unless y'all see
I just
something
need to know
different.
which one.
Nope,
Okay.
we just wanted to have clarity.
Okay.
All right, so until the next meeting.
So let's say next week I came to an agreement with the school. Should I wait another month for the next meeting until they move
No,
forward?
you should contact the planning department immediately.
Because then yours will come before the next meeting.
Okay.
So if, go ahead, Ms. Dixon.
I think to his point, his concern is if he reaches the agreement with the school tomorrow, probably not, but extreme case, at the earliest, the next time you can meet is August 14th, just in terms of the schedule at the city. And so is he to wait till August 14th, even if he has that agreement in hand? Is that's the question. I'm just offering
Because the
clarification.
decision, because the decision of buying the property is, I gave them like 2 months. They gave me 2 months.
So you have plenty of
LOI.
time. So you have plenty of time.
Yeah, but then I also have to do the CFO, so I need to know how much I'm gonna be paying on that. So all that has to go into that in order for us to decide on how much I'm gonna be paying them.
So let's do this real quick. Let's look at the calendar right quick, just so we can all have a general understanding. So tonight is July 24th. With us tabling these matters, it technically wouldn't come back until August, before this commission, at the earliest, August 14th. And then we would hope that everything be in order would get to city council by August 21st. And I don't know, when did you start this process that they're giving you this time?
Like about 10 days, I wrote my letter of intent.
Okay.
So the time has been going since I would say a week or 2 weeks ago.
Week or 2 weeks ago, okay.
All right, well, so.
All right, if you are, I'm just giving clarity. That's what I wanted to know. But yes, just do this. As soon as that is resolved, go contact our planning department
Okay.
and let them know. And that way, because we can only speak to these particular matters, we can't necessarily speak to the certificate of occupancy in the building department, but we do want to do our due diligence and be fair in this process on behalf of the city and on behalf of you as an applicant.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Alrighty. Ladies and gentlemen, there is. I'm sorry.
C-23.
I guess we could have just said, whichever one comes first. Could have said until resolved, or to next meeting, whichever one comes first. We could have said that.
No, you probably gotta be more specific.
That's, yeah, I'm just saying, because we all know what it is. I'm just saying, I don't know. It's okay. I don't want to belabor it. Go ahead.
So my agenda isn't, the second page isn't here. Second page.
Right here?
Just
Oh, you don't have
printing
it?
issue.
Oh.
Yeah. You got it though. Okay, thank you. We're down to item number 8, miscellaneous.
Page 2301.
2301. We're doing the amendment.
The amendments to
I'm
city.
never sitting up here without a computer in front of me again. All right, item D, my apologies.
This is this, but it's, I mean, you needed it's incorrect.
Yes,
What's
the
inc-
description's incorrect. You just need to say that it's to amend the definitions, uses, and sign ordinance.
I guess that was the Lord agreeing with you. So basically, read off what's that item
Yes.
5D. Okay, no problem. We're under new business, but the language is to reflect. Case number 23-01, text amendments to the city ordinance, being chapter 155, article 29, to include additional definitions and including additional uses and standards in article 146. The floor is open for a motion to recommend approval or denial.
Motion to recommend approval.
Second, or support it.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Now we are, let me see the second page, please.
That's it.
Yeah, now we're at miscellaneous, item number 8.
Now we're in miscellaneous.
Yep. Let me see real quick, because I had wrote something down. But I think we might be, oh, yes, miscellaneous. So, I know this has happened before in the past with permitted usage. And this is to the planning department, so whomever, feel free to please answer it. Unfortunately, CVS and Walgreens decided to vacate the city of Inkster, just like other entities have, and then they get reoccupied. Now, from different persons I talked to whose relatives work there and stuff of that nature, they mentioned that there was something going on with them being robbed all the time, or theft, let me put it that way, that they could not stop. I always felt, though, that a business has every option available to stop and prevent things, such as hiring security guards, speaking directly with the police department or public safety, whomever. I don't know if any of those options were ever engaged upon, but now we're at the point where Dollar Tree is moving into Walgreens and Family Dollar is moving into CVS. Of course, again, like I said in the past, permitted use has come into play, so I was just curious if you all could potentially speak to those matters, because they had a signage and everything up already. I'm not sure if you are aware or briefed, but at least want to get out there.
Yes, so permitted uses when there's no significant site change being occurring. If the site has been vacant for less than 2 years, qualifies for a reoccupancy process. That's a smaller fee, it's an administrative approval, and because it's permitted by right and there's no significant changes, it goes through the administrative review process. So in both those cases, they've also applied for their sign permits, which are administratively reviewed as well. It's general retail. I know the dollar store has a certain connotation, but when we look at it in terms of the zoning ordinance, it's general retail, and therefore relates similarly to a pharmacy or another retailer, and so because of that, it qualifies for that reoccupancy review process.
And just, I know they don't have to disclose this information or not, but with them relocating to those, with that establishment having a signage on it, are they looking at relocating, or are they looking at having multiple of those same exact entities in the city?
They have not disclosed that, but my understanding is it seems that they're going to have multiple entities within the city.
So
This seems to me like, again, there's some conjecture because the one people I've been working with for their sign review specifically, it seems like it's a different franchisee because they don't have a familiarity with the city. There doesn't seem to be this, if you had operating another one and you're moving, I think certain questions you would know the answer to. I don't know if that's true, but that's where I think that these are additional locations.
got you. And I only ask that because, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, we get a lot of complaints about that Family Dollar and the cleanliness of the establishment, let alone what's happening in the alleyway.
Absolutely.
And then for another Family Dollar to move, I don't know how many feet away it is, but it's less than 100 feet, I would say, right there, and be an even much larger entity. I just
can't
hope.
see another Family Dollar there right
They're
now.
not gonna close the other one?
They haven't disclosed it.
I
That's
can't
what
see
I was
that
saying.
happening. I can't see that happening.
Because in the
can't see
past, well, that's what I'm saying. Because the Michigan Avenue Dollar Tree is at John Daly in Michigan, and then you got now Cherry Hill and Inkster Road with Walgreens. That Dollar Tree is moving in there. And when she said there's different franchisees, or franchisors, that's why I'm asking.
And
It's
as
the
I
same
said,
concept.
I do not know.
Right. I'm asking because the same thing was happening at the corner of Inkster Road and Michigan Avenue with Dollar General and Family Dollar there. Family Dollar wanted to move across the street and build brand new and move out of that building, but then you already have a Family Dollar right at Cherry Hill, so that's why I'm just asking because I didn't know.
For clarity,
Like 4 doors down.
That
You're
doesn't.
not saying-
they put Kroger's across the street from one another.
you're saying a different franchises. You're not referring to the Family Dollar and the Dollar Tree. You're talking about Family Dollar and Family Dollar are two different franchises?
I do not know. I'm not going to state yes or no whether they are different franchises. All I said was, in my experience so far working with them through the permitting process, there was a certain level of unfamiliarity with the city and the standards. That's what I will share.
And I might have blurred the lines on that when she said the different franchises. We're talking about the different names. Because when I'm talking about franchise, I'm talking about a corporate McDonald's versus a owner-operated McDonald's. And when they put them, their rule of thumb is to be within 1 mile of each other. That's how McDonald's likes to operate. So you don't have to go that far. So if I blurred the lines on that, I apologize. Because she did say different franchises. She might have been talking about the two different entities where I wasn't.
Okay.
All right. That's all I have for that part. Does anybody else on the commission have anything for miscellaneous? Hearing none, we are moving down to the second hearing of the public, and these are for items not scheduled for a public hearing or on the agenda. So at this time, if there's anybody from the general public who wishes to approach the planning commission and bring any matters before us, feel free to do so at this time.
Well, yes, I do. I have somewhat of a dilemma because I am here in reference to the Flower Bowl at 315 Inkster Road. I sent a email to planning, the clerk, the mayor, and someone else, you know, about the Flower Bowl opening and having a license, and this never came before council. And as I understand from calling, different people, it never came before planning. I am trying to figure out how you get a second marijuana license without it going through any of the processes we've set forth here in the city. No one has answered me yet, which is why I came here tonight. Now I learned tonight that if a place moves next to the marijuana facility, that's okay. But if the marijuana facility moves to a place, which is right across the street from a daycare center, that's not okay. So why does he have a license?
So the second portion of your concern, I think that it was a gray area that we're going to have to investigate and start looking into, potentially making sure it's equal on both sides. The first part of your concern, I'm going to have to defer to the planning department and ask if you can speak to those matters at this time, because of course we didn't do a site plan review here or a special land use here. So,
And can I just add one more thing to that? Right, this building was closed for over 2 years, so those things should have been done. You can't reoccupy a building based on, and it burned down, so things have changed. I'm looking at it, it's changed. The doors aren't even in the same place they were when they're there. So how you bypass all of this and get a license? Every regulatory aspect of this city was bypassed for this. And it moved in right across the street from a daycare center, which, according to tonight, you can't do if you're marijuana. You can if you're daycare, but you can't. Y'all got me?
oh, you were listening. All right, hold on one second, Ms. Wiley. Ms. Dixon or Mr. Dowdell, go ahead, please.
Yes, so I was working with the city clerk last week to compile the materials and also put in a request with the city attorney to receive any records related to this location in regards to the licensing and those components. What I can share and what I am aware of was that this location had a special land use that was issued back in 2015. I believe that was for 315 North when they first applied. And with that, the special land use does run with the property. So the special land use does not go away just because the building burned down. The site plan process for when the building got reconstructed, I was not a planning consultant for. I'm not sure at what point, that should have been triggered or why it was not triggered, if it needed to be triggered. And that was one of the things that I was working through, trying to find some documentation on. I know that the building department has gone through and, issued their permits and their certificate of occupancy. I realize that doesn't speak to the planning component. I don't know if it was being rebuilt. I know it didn't burn completely to the ground. The facade obviously was burned and there was significant rebuilding going on. The special land use that was issued in 2015, that was issued while that daycare center was across the street. I don't have the particulars of the court records regarding that whole case, but the special land use does run with the property, so that's why the license was approved when they came to the clerk's office. And obviously the licensing component for the business does not come before city council. It's through the special land use process that the city council and planning commission reviews these cases. So I can share that in 2015, the property received a special land use at that point, and that's where the licensing occurred, and so there was some other documentation when I was working with the clerk that she's been compiling from the prior clerk at that point, that with the fire there was certain timelines extended and things of that nature.
All right, thank you. Ms. Wiley?
Yeah, does anybody feel like Charlie Brown? Did I just hear wah, 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 wah? Because that makes absolutely no sense when you tell me over here that I'm assuming that the marijuana joint moved in after the daycare center, right? You're saying the special land use runs with that. Okay, the building burned down, that was no longer a marijuana business at that point, correct? I'm asking.
Oh, so yes, it was inoperable.
Right.
Yes.
2 years, and everything's supposed to go again if it's been over 2 years.
The site plan review.
Okay, yeah.
But not the
none of
special
this
land use.
None of this happened, but he moved in within 500 feet of a daycare center, which earlier tonight you told me he couldn't do. Is that correct? Tell me if I'm wrong, please. I'm just trying to get some clarity.
Oh, no, I was about to speak. So when I asked, our city ordinance says 500 feet from a daycare, which I believe you alluded to the one across the street.
Right.
That's why I asked Ms. Sullivan about when did she start her process. And then the state of Michigan's says 300 feet. And then, of course, you have the drug-free zone. So One, that's why I asked Ms. Sullivan about when she put hers in, and two, I know everything is still kind of being questioned about 315 North because the special land use runs with that, and how did this licensing go before with us not seeing a site plan review and things of that nature.
Right, any of that. How do you get a certificate of occupancy without having all those prerequisites?
And I guess just alluding to the fact, because this actually happened with a different applicant, guys, with the transition of so many different city planners happening, the applicant who used to be at 315 North that moved to Michigan Avenue was not getting any responses from the city and was not able to move forward. And when he reached out, the way that we ended up finding out that there was something that fell through the cracks was because we started looking at who was working on it at the time, and then the ball just
Okay,
never got.
all of that is fine. Let's
Ma'am,
not
hold on one
confuse it.
second. Can I finish? I was talking to my commissioners.
Well, I thought I had the floor, but you go ahead.
Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So, when we finally reached out to the engineers, the DPS, and everything, we were able to get that moving, and that's how. So I don't know if that is something where the site plan stuff fell through, because like Ms. Dixon said, she wasn't on board at the time where all of this started. I don't know, but something happened, and that's what Ms. Watley is kind of alluding to. What happened with the site plan or site plan review?
Ms. Watley's not alluding. Ms. Watley's stating for a fact that this is something that shouldn't have happened. That license should be revoked. Now, I don't care how many planners came through here during that or how many other people opened one somewhere. That's not what I'm discussing. I'm discussing what happened with this one because not even council was aware that there would be 2 flower bowls.
Correct.
Okay? Nobody knew this. We thought they were moving from one area to the other. I'm not loud enough for you? Okay. But anyway, I'm just saying that that license needs to be revoked. When you find out you've made an error, you correct the error. You don't sit here and make excuses as to why the error occurred. And that's what I'm asking for now. Because did any of you know? Did it come before you in any aspect at all? Neither did it come before council. And that's bad when we're the people who are supposed to be making the rules that govern this city, and we're not even apprised of what's going on. That's a transparency issue too. So at this point, the license needs to be revoked, and the fact that no one after 3 weeks has answered me makes me believe that I'm correct in that estimate.
So, before I go over to Commissioner Daniels, what you're stating is asking this body to reach out to the clerk's office who issued the license regarding that to revoke it due to
whatever your prerogative
I'm
is
asking
in
you
this
directly.
instances. I can't tell you
We
all
can't-
what to do,
we
but
can't
you know
revoke
what the
licenses.
rules
We can't
are in
revoke
this
li-
instance,
this
don't you?
commission
And
cannot-
if they haven't followed the rules, then you need to do something about it. Yes, whatever is in your purview to do to rectify this situation, then I expect you to do it. Not ask me if it's okay if you do it.
I didn't ask if it was okay. I asked, are you asking us to reach out to the
I'm
city?
asking you to do your job, whatever it entails.
Thank you. Commissioner Daniels?
I just wanted to state that when the flower bowl was coming up, I knew that the daycare was there. And that was my first question was, hey, this is right directly across the street. And I was told that daycares was not included in that parameter. That was just because it's not considered a quote-unquote school.
Okay.
Ms. Dixon had a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So that's
Ms.
what I
Dixon?
was told because I questioned it.
We changed that. We changed the
Yeah, but I'm saying, but when was it changed? Well, I'm saying, when was the change though? So that's why I'm thinking that probably would happen.
changed like 2 years ago.
Are you talking about the drug-free zone stuff?
I'm talking about with regard to her saying that the flower bowl should not be there, period. That's what she's saying right now, because at some point, when it got burned down, it was no more, they had to start over.
It didn't have the
grandfather-
it didn't grandfather, it didn't
It wasn't grandfather.
It didn't grandfather in.
So when I saw this building coming up, I questioned, hey, this is across the street from a daycare. I was told that daycare at that time, which was evidently a long time ago, that daycare was not included in that, so it did not apply.
Okay. So Ms. Dixon, I'm sorry, go ahead first.
I would like to just provide a couple of points of clarification.
Go ahead.
The daycare was approved in 2014 or 2015, before the original special land use for that marijuana establishment, which is not specific to the license. I really need to clarify that the special land use, which is what the city council approves and what the planning commission approves, is specific to the address, nothing to do with the license holder. That's why when the clerk approves licenses, it doesn't go to the city council, because that's not how the process has been laid out in this city. When it was the special